Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
So what ensures a victory this weekend against South Carolina? I've said it many, many times. It's not about you. It's about us. It's about what Texas A&M does or doesn't do. We start off the show here, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. You knew that, I hope. If you didn't, welcome to the show. And we've got Olin Buchanan. You knew that. He's our Heisman Trophy voter. He's our columnist, and he's my dear friend. Hello, OB.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Hey, can I congratulate you on your World Series championship? Because that's the matchup that I think the Rangers demolish. The winner of that series, I thought the Phillies were a bad matchup for both the Astros and the Rangers. I know where you're going because I know you well enough. But I think, congratulations.
Well,
I think we're going to a parade in Arlington one day.
I truly hope that the Rangers, of course, win the World Series. I'm truly not going to believe it can be possible until they get the final out. Again, I was twice celebrating in my living room in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because the Rangers had a 2-run lead with 2 outs and 2 strikes on the batter twice.
In the ninth inning.
In the ninth and then the 11th.
Yeah.
In the 6th game against the Cardinals, and twice with a 2-run lead and 2 outs and 2 strikes, they lost.
Different team, different generation. Look, I'm going to be very honest with you.
Same franchise.
I need Bronny, my buddy Philip Vargas, all the baseball heads out there to let me. I don't know much about the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't know much about them. Okay, I don't follow baseball the way I used to. I'm following more college baseball because of what we do here.
Yeah,
I do know some of the, and I know that they struggled down the stretch. Well, not struggled down the stretch. The Astros had to win that series at Arizona, and they did it. And it took a little bit for the Diamondbacks to ensure their postseason success. I know they're hot. I thought the Phillies were super hot, but it looks like the Diamondbacks are more hot. So I don't know much. I didn't want to, if I was a Rangers fan, and as an Astros fan, I didn't want to take on the Phillies again. I think this is a better matchup. Somebody can text in and tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I guess I'm glad it's the Diamondbacks because I detest the city of Philadelphia. And I don't want their ingrate fans to have something to cheer about.
Sure.
Gosh, what if they won the Super Bowl and the World Series in the same year? How heinous would that be? I mean, to me, I don't even – we were talking with somebody just yesterday back in the fishbowl, and I said, well, other than getting a cheesesteak, what's the point of going to Philly? He said, well, the Liberty Bell's there. I said, fine. What are you going to do for the other 23 hours and 50 minutes? For me, the best thing about Philadelphia is that it's 50 miles from Atlantic City.
That's
At least I can go play cards.
What do you think my favorite part of Philadelphia is? What do you think when I went for the draft?
Yeah, I'll say running up the steps for the Rocky thing.
Well, they moved the Rocky thing.
Yeah,
it's in the area, but it's not up the steps.
But you had to run up the steps to the, what is it? Is that Independence Hall or
whatever it's called?
Or whatever it is.
So I went for the draft in 2017.
Yeah.
When they drafted Deshaun Watson, I was there.
When Drew Pearson was the star of the show for his.
What did he do? Remind me.
He came out to to give the Cowboys pick, and everybody, of course, booed him because Philadelphia.
Yeah, of course.
And he had a great speech. He's going 5-time champions. I want to thank Philadelphia for helping me in my career.
That's fantastic.
It was pretty great.
That's great. No, I was there, and the best part of that, there's two parts that were my favorite part of that trip. It was, yes, the Rocky statue.
Of course.
And then interviewing Apollo Creed. Who was
really?
there?
Carl
Weathers was there.
How
I
about
took a
that?
picture with him at the red carpet at the NFL draft ceremony, whatever. And it was on my Facebook. It was like my profile pic for a while. That's my guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Is he still with us?
He's still with us. Not as jacked as he used to be.
You get older and it's
It
hard.
happens, but he's still jacked.
I saw him in one of those Adam Sandler movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was his name in that movie?
Which was it? Billy Madison?
No, it was Happy Gilmore.
I get
Happy
him mixed
Gilmore.
up.
Yeah. He was
Carl Weathers. He's
best.
also Action Jackson.
Action Jackson was great. Why didn't they make a part 2, Ob?
Because part 1 failed, I guess. I don't
Part 1 was great. Action Jackson, Cobra, those movies.
He was in Cobra?
No, I'm just saying that those are movies of my generation that kind of defined why I am the way I am sometimes.
Why you want to beat up people?
Yeah, I just, but I really don't.
I know.
But I do.
I know.
I like to think I can. I just can't. Although I'm not going to say names, but there's somebody on social media recently who has covered A&M in some capacity who's like challenging everybody to a fight.
Are you saying like, I'm more like Paulie. I don't sweat you, but I want somebody else to fight.
Yeah. Well, somebody's like, I'm just waiting for the day. Come on.
All right.
Call me out, bro. All right, Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to texags.com/coffee. By the way, having a nice cup of coffee right now here on TexAgs Radio. Beat the hell out of the morning. So my question to start off the show, what ensures a victory against South Carolina? And then the follow-up is, I think they're the same answer, by the way, what brings disaster? Because I don't think it's anything about South Carolina at all. I understand Tennessee a little bit, Alabama for sure, right? Like Alabama almost gave you the game with all the mistakes they made, yet they were phenomenal in the second half. But
I think those mistakes were forced.
Absolutely. But I can understand where if you don't take advantage of your opportunities against Alabama or Tennessee on the road, you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. Against South Carolina, I put this, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, OB, it's 100% on what mistakes A&M makes.
It's true.
That's it.
It's yeah. Capitalize on your opportunities.
Yeah.
Capitalize on that's it. A&M moved the ball against Tennessee.
Yep.
They moved the ball against Alabama. I'm not saying that it looked like an old, what was it, whack game. Remember those games?
Yeah.
They were always like, the final score was like 60-50.
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying they were moving the ball at will, but they moved the ball effective enough between the 30s and 25s and sometimes even to the 20 that they should have been able to score more points than they did in both games. So you've got to you've got to score in the red zone. You got to get touchdowns in the red zone. Once you get there, you have to capitalize. And if you capitalize with your opportunities, you'll win the game.
Yeah, 100%. Look, can Spencer Rattler throw for a couple big touchdown passes? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's where you lose, right? Like a couple big touchdown passes, you give up 2 huge scores, so 14 points, let's say, which this team has done a really good job at limiting touchdowns from opponents, right? Mm-hmm. You should still be able to score 34 points on this defense that is like 114th in the country, something ridiculous like
How
that.
about
114th. They're giving up 31 points a game.
Yeah. How about play good special teams?
Complimentary football sounds good to me.
You know, I mean, their special teams, let's face it, it's been an abject disaster on special teams. You have 2 field goals blocked this year, one at a critical moment against Alabama. Mm-hmm. You've given up a punt return for a touchdown. You've given up a kickoff return for a touchdown.
And yet, if you don't get a special teams touchdown against Arkansas, that game feels tighter.
Yeah, but you know what? That goes back to taking care or capitalizing on your opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because that game never should have been that you were counting on or that you were needing a special teams touchdown from an IS.
Yep.
That one should have been folded and packed away a long time before that.
A pick 6 sure sounds nice.
I think I would not be surprised if you see a defensive touchdown this week. I really wouldn't, because
forced fumble, strip sack.
Yeah, and it always starts typically more. I should say the majority of time you see a defensive touchdown, pressuring the quarterback is involved, and based on A&M's ability to pressure the quarterback and South Carolina's inability to protect the quarterback. It would seem like a perfect situation. Now, once again, will A&M capitalize on that? We shall see. But by the data coming in to the game, it would suggest that A&M or that Spencer Rattler is going to be under heavy pressure.
Can you say it's about A&M for the rest of the season? Because I felt like I said that heading into Bama and to Tennessee, but those were different level of opponents. But this weekend at Ole Miss, which I'm not sold on Ole Miss, but whatever, they're 13th in the country for a reason. Mississippi State, it is all about A&M in that game. Obviously, ACU, and then on the road to LSU. I don't know.
The only one that I would look at and say today that I could look at and say A&M's a better team, better personnel. The only one I can look at and say maybe that's not the case is LSU. And when you see what they're doing offensively, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, up until that game, and then hey, go on a winning streak and let's see what happens in that game. But you have better players than South Carolina. You have better players across the board than.
But that's been the last couple of years.
Yes, it has,
yeah.
And that's why you have to. You have to. It's got. I've always just factored in when I'm picking a game who I think has the better players. I think talent typically wins, but.
And how much does home field matter in that equation?
Well, it matters. It matters.
Because A&M, you would have said had better players than Tennessee, right?
I think they did, and I think A&M could have won that game, and I think
or should have won,
or maybe should have won that game.
Yeah.
You know what? And I don't mean to belabor the point, but we were sitting next to each other, and when A&M got the punt, and A&M was backed up on the 1 yard line,
we knew disaster.
I was saying, please play action pass. Try to. If you just run, you're going to be punting from the end zone. Your best chance to get out of this is to make them think you're going to pass or run, and then try to get a quick slant
to Jake or somebody quickly.
And they run on first down, they run on second down, then on third down when everybody knows they're probably going to pass, they pass. They're so predictable, and so you have to take that into account. You have more talent, but whoever's driving the train it's like you have a blind chauffeur.
This goes back to me understanding why they hold on to the ball to go into halves. Understand because of the lack of confidence. But if I were to change one thing, I said let's start going for the jugular, guys.
Yeah.
Let's just start being aggressive a lot. The conservative approach isn't working. Not right now. Right? Get up to a 3-touchdown lead.
And then be conservative.
But right now, when these games are tight, you're giving up the touchdown anyway.
Yeah.
So, or the field position anyway. Let's go be aggressive.
Right.
I 100% think that should be the philosophy. Do you mind, before we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, I bring back the Astros for a moment?
Go ahead.
Just for a moment. Congratulations to the Rangers on your World Series that's about to happen. Did you see the group of dudes that went viral at the Astros-Rangers Game 7? Dressed up in an astronaut outfit. It's all over the place.
I did. I saw two guys.
Okay. That gentleman on the left right there is my brother-in-law, Justin Gumbar. Sorry if I'm supposed to say that out loud.
The one with the
Not the one with
beard?
that. I just saw that the dude from, what's the name of that show? I can't remember the name of the show with the Rangers hat on.
Oh, that guy looks like King of Queens.
Yeah, King of Queens. That's somebody put that in there.
No, the guy with the beard.
The guy with the beard on the left who looks really sad is my brother-in-law, Justin Gumbar.
Does he work for NASA?
No, no. He has done this before, okay? So I say that to you. Look at this other picture. This is from the 2017 World Series run. Justin there with his good friend Kyle were dressed up as Ric Flair. They went viral that game as well.
I love that. I love people that – I love the face painters and the guys that dress up and all that. I love fandom like that. I think that's tremendous. We need more of that.
So I didn't realize, because I remember I turned off the game, right? Because after the first inning, it was a wrap, right? So I got a text at 5 in the morning yesterday. It's my buddy Carlos who sends me a text. He goes, "Is this Justin?" And I look at it, I was like, yeah, it is him. And I didn't think a big deal of it. By the time I got through yesterday, it was everywhere on the cover of ESPN. I mean, every Facebook and Twitter meme or X meme you could find. And my sons came home because, Chunch is, we call him Chunch. Chunch is famous, Dad. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's everywhere. We're talking about it at school. So I just stopped for a moment. I'd share that my brother-in-law either made a fool of himself or made himself an American legend.
I think that's great.
So, Chunch, we're proud of you, buddy. Let's go to the angry elephant.
Chunch, I'm glad you were sad.
I'm not.
But I applaud.
You applaud the
I applaud
effort.
the fandom.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you were sad.
He lives in Colorado, came for that game. God, imagine that trip.
Man, see, I think that's awesome. I don't even know the guy. I love that.
Yeah, he's awesome. When we went to Colorado this summer, we stayed at his place at Beaver Creek. It was phenomenal. Great times. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find Kennedy.
Speaking of awesome.
Yeah.
Did you say possum?
Yes.
Yeah, speaking possums.
No, speaking of awesome.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just sneezing, so my ears are a little clogged up a little bit. Sorry, guys.
I guess.
Wow, this is not the start of the...
Good morning.
Good morning. There she is.
How are y'all?
How are you?
I'm so good. Glad to be back in the chair. It's been in a week.
Hey, can we beat
That's
the
a
hell
joke.
out of
Y'all are
morning?
supposed to laugh.
Seems like 7 days.
Hey, Cavs, we need to beat the hell out of the morning. We're going to go for the
trying.
12th person that texts in
Okay.
TexAgs Coffee. They're going to win themselves a free batch. A batch, is that the right way to phrase it?
Bag.
Looks like a bag.
Free bag.
Of our TexAgs Beat the Hell Out of Morning
Actually,
Coffee.
I got to see the winner from yesterday. He came and picked it up
Yeah?
yesterday afternoon.
All right. So if you text in TexAgs Coffee, you're number 12 on the list today. You can get yourself a free bag of TexAgs Coffee. And if you want to order it, texags.com/coffee. What do you got for us this morning, Cavs?
I've got a whole list of sports that we got going on, but at the top of it, we've got soccer traveling over to LSU on Thursday, and it is their last regular game of the season before the SEC tournament starting on Sunday.
Isn't that for the West Division?
It is. There's a lot on the line here. I don't
Win.
understand the complete, there's a lot of scenarios. They can go real high. They can go kind of low with the seeding.
Just go win.
Just go win. Yeah. I think there's going to be some celebrities in attendance there.
Yeah. Like
Celebrities.
There's a rumor that I might be at that game in
David
Baton
Nuño.
Rouge.
Yeah.
There's a rumor.
I've heard.
That's so exciting.
Why'd you do a fake exciting? It's so exciting.
Are you a
Are
celebrity
you going to dress
in College
Are you going to
Station?
dress in an astronaut suit?
I might wear an astronaut suit. Hey,
You
Justin,
should.
send it my way. What else do you have for us, young lady?
Also on Sunday, Buzz and the boys are tipping off against Texas Tech for a charity exhibition match.
That game is in Denton, I believe.
Denton?
Yes, it's at the University of North Texas.
One of the
Their
most
gym.
famous wins in A&M basketball history was in Denton.
Is that right?
I believe that's where they were when they beat North Carolina and Dean Smith in double overtime.
It was in Denton, really?
The Super Pit.
Huh. Good
I believe
times.
if that's wrong, somebody correct me, but I think it's correct.
You would know, OB. You've got, I don't have it as good as you do. You have this ability to forget everything and remember things like, how did you remember that?
From 50 years ago.
Yeah, wow, with clarity too. Cavs, anything else?
Nothing. The text line started blowing up. I was like, what's going on?
Oh, really?
So all of our friends texted in for some coffee.
Because I'm sick and tired of apathetic Aggies right now, even though I'm sometimes one of those apathetic Aggies. People right now are showing up to the show to listen late. They're not doing their part. They're not watching on the YouTube. They're apathetic. We're going to go beat the hell out of South Carolina this weekend, and then we're going to be hopeful for the trip to Ole Miss. That's what I believe, OB.
How fun would it be to end that futility against Ole Miss by just beating the living crap out of?
If you, 2 weeks in a row, 35 points plus, and win by a couple scores, 2 weeks in a row.
Then all of a sudden we would be thinking everything's been fixed.
And would you think that?
Where was this all year?
Would you think that was possible after the Alabama game? Not even before the Alabama, after the Alabama, because I would have believed it was possible.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't let Tennessee.
They could have scored 30 on Tennessee if you just get out of your own way.
Yes.
Hey, Jimbo, 2 words: quarterback sneak.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Maybe on
Third and one.
Every
once in a while. Hey, so back to my brother-in-law.
Yeah, Justin.
Justin, yeah, or Chunch.
Chunch.
If you were to help him you're a good Rangers fan. You're like, you know what? I know you feel bad.
Yeah.
I know you're sad. Bring your buddy Kyle.
Yeah.
Where would you take him?
Well, I would take him to Fargo's if we were here in town. I'd say, look, let's meet over in Bryan, just down Texas Avenue. Unfortunately, you're probably gonna have to do the crazy U-turn because of the medians. But okay, it's worth it. And depending on the day, Like if it was on a Tuesday or a Saturday, I'd recommend the rib tips. But like today is a Wednesday, so I'd say, you know what? I personally had their barbecue beef on a sandwich, but we can try it on a baked potato today, on Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah, if you like potatoes, and who doesn't?
I mean, I like potatoes.
And if you like barbecue chopped beef, who doesn't?
Love barbecue chopped beef. Yes, yes.
Put them together.
You're making me you're making me forget about the Astros losing.
Talk a marriage of gastronomical paradise.
That was a well-phrased word.
Yeah.
Gastronomical. I like that. Yeah. I'm all in on Vargo's right. In fact, I want it for breakfast.
And I would say get some of their lemonade to go with it.
Not a cool, refreshing drink?
Yeah, that cool, refreshing drink.
It is Fargo's. They're one of the top 50 barbecue joints in the world. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, because they're one of the top 50 in Texas.
Which is their trademark because
it's true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's Fargo's. Go say hi or howdy, however you want to do it, to Alan, Belender, and Maurice. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in the world, Texas, i.e. the world.
It's Fargo's. Go check it out. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, before we get to the games we want to watch this weekend, I want to respond to a couple messages on TexAgs.com. The Ag Engineering 12 says, Nuño, why are you doing this? I don't know what I did. Maybe that I think that we're going to win convincingly against South Carolina. I'm sorry that I have an opinion. Apologize. Calvin says, Nuño, hate to disagree with you. At this stage, how in the world can you believe the Ags beat the hell out of any team? Well, I'm going to tell you why I believe they can and will. I believe against these inferior opponents, and I find South Carolina to be at the level of Arkansas and at the level of Auburn. I believe that's the kind of game we can expect from A&M this weekend. And if we don't, then that tells you something about what's happening in the locker room.
Well, or in the coach's box. Because here's the deal. Did not Mississippi State score 30 on South Carolina?
Yeah. And they just scored
7 on Arkansas?
On Arkansas, yeah.
If Mississippi State can score 30 on you, if you can't score 30 on them, then maybe it's a lost cause.
Yep. No, I'm not ready to go there yet, but you better be able to do it. Like, every time I have optimism, there's a level of doubt, and that's with all teams. I have one team in particular that I love that is not from Houston that wins all the time, and I go into those games confident and at the very same moment finding 12 reasons why they'll lose, right? And this is a team that's won 13, 14 championships.
Obviously, you're not talking about Texas A&M. You were talking about Real Madrid.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just say a soccer thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't me. I just said a team that I love.
Yeah.
That's all I said. 14 Champions Leagues. But regardless, my point is you can have optimism because of what you've seen, and I also have some man, if they don't take care of business, it can go south in a hurry. But that's why we watch the games.
Yeah.
If you already know they're going to lose, what's the point of watching?
Well, I don't know they're going to lose. I just don't know they're going to win. I think they're going to win.
And I bet you would predict that they would win.
I predict that they will win. However,
you don't know.
Because of bizarre things that seem to happen that don't make sense to me.
I am there with you. As of today, I predicted they're going to win. They have a terrible defense.
Terrible.
They have a terrible offensive line.
Terrible.
Okay. Then are we good at the defensive line? Last time I checked?
Yes, excellent.
Are we good at sacking the quarterback?
Excellent.
Is North Carolina, who got 9, good at sacking the quarterback?
They're okay.
They're okay. They're not A&M
They're not,
good.
no.
Okay. So, hello. Defensively, if we can't score on the 118th ranked defense that's given up over 32 points a game, then what are we doing here, guys? That's like my go-to line this week. What are we doing? If we can't do that, then why are we here?
And I would say it's a lost cause.
I just don't want to say it. So
I'm very confident about Abilene Christian, though.
You're confident about South Carolina. You are.
I'm confident. I'm confident. I'm not confident. I'm confident.
Confident.
I'm confident.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. They should win this game.
They should win.
I think they're going to win this game, and I think it'll maybe be close for a little bit, and then they'll find some distance, and then it'll feel like Auburn. It'll feel like Arkansas.
I'm willing to bet $10 that they're going to beat South Carolina, but I'm not willing to bet like $1,000.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, outside of ACU, I'm not betting $1,000 at all.
I'd bet $1,000 that they'll beat ACU.
Yeah, outside of ACU,
Yeah,
that's the only one. That's the only one.
And that's what I mean. The difference between confident and
but remember,
confident.
Last year UMass was a little closer than we expected.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they figured it out.
Which, yeah, what a schizo team.
So that's where I am with them is, look, I can make arguments for why they'll win, and I can make arguments why they can lose, right? Because to this day, I think the loss to South Carolina last year was so ridiculous because you put yourself in such a hole to start the game. Such a huge hole.
Ridiculous. And you almost climbed out of it.
But you don't have that kind of grace. You can't. You've got to do that to them. You've got to be up 17-0 5 minutes in.
Yes. And you know what you got to do? You got to be able to get a yard when you need one.
Calvin says, Nuño, the Aggies could be ahead 24-10 at the half and still lose 27-24. Could they?
Yes, it's true.
So
it's true.
When people say, oh, they're drinking maroon juice, I get it. Yeah, I like the sound of juice better, not Kool-Aid. I get it, right? Like, of course, that's what we go to as Aggies. I also think it's freaking Wednesday. I'm ready to turn the page on the losing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Do we believe in Evan Stewart?
Yes.
Do we believe in Anaya Smith?
Absolutely.
Do we believe in Le'Veon Moss?
I believe in him.
All right. Do we believe in Walter Nolan?
I believe.
Do we believe in Shamar Turner?
I believe.
Bryce Anderson?
I believe.
Do we believe in Lane Kiffin? I wanted to see what you would say. I was trying to catch you slipping.
I believe in him when he's playing A&M for some reason.
Stop! Do you believe in Shane Beamer?
I think he's a nice guy.
I like that guy.
I'd
like to see him do well, except when they play.
You know what I like about him? I liked his dad.
Yeah.
And you know what his dad was really good at?
Special teams.
Special teams.
Mm-hmm. So you saying we should hire him as our special teams coach?
Maybe his dad.
All right, let's hit a break. We're going to do games we want to watch and also OB's SEC power rankings. If you want to be part of the discussion this morning, you can do that by texting 979-693-1150. We'll check in with the Angry Elephant News and Social Center here in a moment. Right now, we are talking about Milliken Reserves. Milliken Reserve, why make it plural? Milliken Reserve. Neighborhoods there are phenomenal. They're not like your typical subdivision. They're based entirely in that Brazos Valley landscape and heritage, closely linked to the land with deep Texas roots. There's no place like Milliken Reserve. And some of the areas to check out: the creek, homes on 10-acre wooded estates. You've got the hollow in a private gated community. You've got the meadows that are responsive to their natural surroundings, following the lead of early Texas agriculture with great breezeways and porches. You can learn more about the neighborhoods at millikenreserve.com. They're rooted in Texas soil. And if it sounds like a place for you, make sure you go check them out. And by the way, you don't have to live there. You can go hang out there, right? You can go hiking, biking, canoeing. You can do it all out there. They've got amazing equestrian paths, creeks and ponds and gathering areas. They want to connect families to nature and to each other. They provide a natural setting for people to connect and come together. The website, again, millikenreserve.com, millikenreserve.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. We're about to get into games we want to see. And, of course, our SEC Power Rankings. A couple of messages on the YouTube page. Let's see if I can find the one I wanted to read. John Boy says, if we win with conservative football, that's a loss for the rest of the season. We can't beat good teams with that style of play. What do you think?
Well, from what we've seen so far, it would seem that he is right on target.
I would like aggressive early, conservative late. I'm fine with that.
Well, I'm one of those guys that now Jimbo was criticized for. Look, Jimbo went for it against Alabama on the first. They had a 4th and 1, went for it. Personally, I would not have minded if you kicked the field goal. I think you break the seal first of all. You get your first points. Take the field goal to break the seal, right? I always take I want my first drive points.
You know where
no
I was at that
is.
point that day. I was like, I'm against this completely. I'm not against going for it, by the way, because I'm talking about being aggressive. I didn't like that play.
Okay, I would have taken the field goal.
Yep, 100%.
But I'm not gonna hang him out to dry for going for it when the next and then say, well, he's not aggressive enough. Well, he was aggressive, it didn't work, and then he wasn't aggressive after that. But I just always think, no matter who you're playing, unless you're like right on the goal line and you have an offensive line that is pushing people around, I would say on your first series, always take the points.
I agree with you. I agree. Now, if you're at 4th and 1 from the 1,
and you got a badass offensive line,
or a running back,
the Eagles,
you got Devon A-Chain back there.
Well, I've seen Devon get stuffed a few times too because, gosh, it's amazing how good he was.
It is
to get 1,000 yards behind that without very much help last year.
Yeah,
he was a 2,000-yard back with a stuck behind a 1,000-yard line.
What games do you want to watch,
All right.
Olin?
Let's start off. How about number 6, Oklahoma at Kansas? Oklahoma's thinking playoff, but last week they escaped South Florida. Kansas, we're still conditioned to think Kansas isn't very good. Kansas is better than South Florida. Kansas is like 5-2.
Yep. And one of the losses to Texas, they didn't have their starting quarterback.
Yeah. So Oklahoma, I think, if you look at their undefeated schedule, if they don't beat Texas, they don't really have an impressive win.
Mm-hmm.
So they better be at their best against Kansas. They could lose in Lawrence.
By the way, Jalen Daniels doubtful for this game as well.
Yeah.
So they really miss him. By the way, it's very possible that Oklahoma goes undefeated and loses to Texas in the Big 12 championship. And
if Texas gets there.
But
Kansas State often gives Kansas.
How long is Quinn supposed to be out? Quinn Ewers?
Maybe the rest of the year.
Is it really that bad?
I
sprained AC joint?
If you're going to throw and you got a sprained shoulder, I don't know if that for a fact.
Okay, next game.
How about number 21 Tennessee at Kentucky? This is a good old fashioned border rivalry. So I think that makes it interesting. They both could finish second, in the SEC East, even though Missouri probably disagrees. But two teams that are on the brink of having really good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the winner has a really good season. The other one hasn't. They're having a fine season.
Yep.
There's not as many great games this week as there was last week.
No, I was looking at the games as I was getting ready for up to the second. I'm like, I'm interested in this game because I think this game puts pole position for second place, if that's even a thing.
Yeah.
But
maybe you get a better bowl game.
Maybe.
Yeah, you get to go to Florida. How about number 20 Duke and number 18 Louisville? There's 4 one-loss teams in the ACC. So the winner kind of still stays alive in the hunt for the ACC championship game to play Florida State again. But obviously, they're both ranked, so they're both pretty good.
Yep.
So from that standpoint, about here's a matchup of ranked opponents with a reason to play to still have aspirations to get to the championship game. I think that makes it worthwhile.
The latest with Riley Leonard.
He's probably out.
Which to me changes. Like I wanted to pick Duke in that game, but if he's not playing, I don't think I can pick him.
Yeah, I understand. That's probably sound thinking. How about number 8 Oregon versus number 13 Utah? Quite very similar to the Duke Louisville game. Both of these teams have one loss. Both are trying to stay in contention for the Pac-12 championship. Oregon's more flash and dash. Utah's just meat and potatoes, man. They're just tough and don't make a lot of mistakes. Oregon's gonna have more talent, but
I'm leaning Utah because they're at home and they're tough. I would not. Oregon's number 8 for a reason. They got a good defense. They
and
can
Oregon
score.
State gave Utah trouble.
Yeah,
they beat them.
So I don't know. That's a rough one for me.
But that's I think Utah's just a fun team to watch if you just like good old fashioned football.
I like Kyle Whittingham.
I do. That's a heck of a game. In fact, I'm trying to look like Kyle Whittingham. I'm going to grow the gray beard. I just need to get grayer on top.
I do think you need a hardened beard. I think that would be a good look for you.
Oh, a hardened beard?
Yeah.
No, that's not right.
Just try it. Just try it. See what Irma thinks. Come on, just do it.
Irma'd probably like
what
it.
if we get 1,000 likes?
I've got a hardened gut.
He's not in shape.
So
actually, I don't know. I don't think he's reported to the Sixers.
I don't want to look completely like Harden.
Did you watch any NBA last night?
No.
You gonna watch tonight the Mavs?
No.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
And then number 1, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Number 1, Georgia. I think they're number 1, at least the one I looked at. Maybe they're number 2. I don't know. Against Florida. Let's be honest.
Florida's doing phenomenal compared to what people thought. They're really good.
Georgia has been vulnerable at times this year, even against Vanderbilt. South Carolina had a 2-touchdown lead on them.
Yeah,
maybe it's 1. Maybe
and no Brock Bowers.
No Brock Bowers. Yeah, and and it's a big rival game. Georgia probably rolls them.
Is there a scenario where there isn't an SEC team in the playoffs?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it'll happen, but yeah, absolutely. What if somebody from the SEC? What if Georgia loses?
So if LSU beats Bama,
yeah,
they're out, right? Mm-hmm. Bama's out. LSU's already basically out.
Mm-hmm.
If Georgia slips up around the way,
Well, I think you got to look at the other conferences. Is Washington going to finish unbeaten?
Mm-hmm.
Is Oklahoma going to finish unbeaten? Is Florida State going to finish unbeaten? And either Michigan or Ohio State. Well, then you have 4 unbeaten teams. By the way, if there was a 1-loss team in, you might be able to make a stronger case for it getting 2 from the Big Ten again.
Yeah.
Ohio State and Michigan.
What about this scenario, B? Just to upset the listeners and the viewers. What about A&M goes 9-3, LSU's 9-3, Alabama's 9-3? How about that little situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying they're getting to the playoffs, but now
I'm counting on winning the lottery too.
Yeah. I would like that.
Who could beat Alabama? LSU absolutely could beat Alabama. Who else? Auburn? Rival game?
I would say they can.
The rival game, and Auburn's actually starting to show some signs of life.
Let's see who they got left. So they got
Kentucky
at home. Kentucky's got them at home. Could they?
I mean, it could.
Could, sure.
Could.
Chattanooga?
I'm not putting my money on the mocks.
So, are you the one who told me recently that you wouldn't be surprised if LSU goes to Tuscaloosa and wins?
I would not be surprised because they score so much. They can score, and their LSU's kryptonite, their weakness is their secondary. By the way, I understand that Denver Harris is inactive.
Yeah, is he in trouble again?
Probably. So their weakness is their secondary. Can Alabama completely exploit that secondary? I'm sure. What if like Alabama A&M secondary is the weakness, is a weakness, right?
Yep.
And Alabama was able to score 26 points on A&M. I don't know if 26 points beats LSU.
Yeah, good point. Mr. Cheeks on the YouTube page says it's a sleeveless, sleeveless hoodie Wednesday. I got sleeves. They're just not long.
Then just not long sleeves.
But I got sleeves.
Oh, well, yeah, but, you got guns.
No, I don't. I've lost those.
No,
I lost those.
So.
Excuse me, Miss Kevin?
Nothing.
Why did you go, oh,
I'm
quietly?
Just gonna keep...
Why? Well, tell me why?
I can't speak.
Why'd you say, oh, my God.
I'm keeping my thoughts to myself on this Wednesday morning.
It's bicep radio. All biceps all the time on TexAgs radio.
Would you beat in a arm wrestling contest? Would you beat Luch?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
I beat my wife a couple of years ago.
Bronny's doing his.
Yeah, Bronny's got big arms. A couple of years ago, my wife videoed. I think it was on Father's Day, and my son and I, and it took me a good 2 minutes to pin my son on, and he's grown more, and I've gotten over. He would destroy me now. In fact, he always wants to, and I always say, "No, we've already done that. I already know.
I already won. Can you imagine flexing in a Charge Apparel shirt?
I can only imagine it because I've never had a Charge Apparel shirt. But
Well,
I'm sure
I'm working on it for you.
I'm sure I would look quite studly.
You would look great. By the way, you can be tall.
Yeah.
You can be small.
Small.
You can be skinny.
Skinny.
You could be.
Looking for a rhyme for skinny.
I'm just trying to think of something like, not to say fat. You could be
robust.
You could be a bigger dude, right? A bigger dude on the other side, right? And you would look great in a Charge Apparel shirt. They're fitted, but they're slightly fitted. They're not like, sometimes those, like the MMA guys wear those real tight, that's not what we're talking. We're talking about slightly fitted.
Slightly fitted.
Through the chest and through the arms.
Just enough to
show some muscle, but not all the muscle, right? Like you want to leave a little disguise.
Right. It's like, yeah, I got you,
And then if you do
leave
it
a little.
just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Just
make them want it more.
Want it more.
Want it more. Give me more.
Yeah. And then if you get the maroon one,
then you're
shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see you in a maroon.
I could see it too.
A gray one.
Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black.
I'm wearing black and gray today.
Well, there you go.
But it's not a Charge Apparel shirt.
No,
so
we need to work on that.
I don't look as studly in it.
12% of their total sales, not just profits.
Now, this is why I applaud the most.
Yeah, this is awesome. Donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives and ode to the 12th man. Their premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailor-fit, as we told you. Check out the website, thechargeapparel.com, thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram at thechargeapparel or on X, the Charge brand. was a bit shocked you didn't know we were going to be at the Angry Elephant on Friday.
No one told me.
Well, there was a meeting.
Was I at the meeting?
No, we didn't have a meeting. We were going to do another game, but we rescheduled, and we're going to do it this weekend.
That's fun. I like the Angry Elephant.
It's good. Yeah. The wings.
I love the wings there.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I really do.
I didn't realize how much of a party place it can be on the weekends.
Oh, yeah.
It's like late night fun.
In fact, if the Aggies win on Saturday, I may find myself there Saturday night.
Partying?
Yeah.
Dancing?
Well, I don't know about that.
Your Adam West dance that you do sometimes?
The Batman dance.
The Batman dance. Yeah, he ruined the character.
No, he made the character,
No, I'm not going to argue this with you. It's just, you can't have, excuse me for saying, a dorky / not in shape Batman.
But
not
Batman, why does he need to be in shape? Everything he uses is all up from his utility belt.
Because
it's all stuff he bought. And by the way, he made out with
Eartha.
Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt and Lee Merriweather. Mic drop right there.
Okay.
Boom. He wins.
You're familiar with, I forget which one. I think it was Michael Keaton.
Julie Newmar.
With Halle Berry. Pretty good.
But Bell is your guy.
Yeah, Bell's the best. There's nobody close.
Who did he make out with?
Katie, the girl from Dawson's Creek. The one who was married to Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes.
Oh, see, that's a loss.
That's a win.
Oh, bro.
No. Win.
No. Man, she's more overrated than the Longhorns.
Also, what's her name? God, what's the actress name who played Catwoman in Batman The Dark Knight Rises? No, not Pfeiffer. That's like in the 1940s.
That never made sense.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. So we'll be at the Angry Elephant.
I'll be there.
Can we get our power rankings?
Yeah, right now. You ready? Hey,
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in and disagree with me. Number 1, I've got Georgia. Number 2, Alabama. I'm saying Ole Miss is number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Got the same record as or better record than LSU and beat them.
Yep.
And I still think LSU is better, but you gotta respect the win. So number 4, I have LSU, which I should be respecting the win over Missouri, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Missouri's number 5. I have Kentucky 6, Florida 7, Tennessee 8.
Okay.
Texas A&M number 9. Naughty number 9. Number 10, Auburn.
10 Auburn, because they've looked better.
They've looked better. I have South Carolina at number 11. Mississippi State, 12. What has happened to Arkansas?
All these teams that you put at the very bottom are teams that A&M has beat or should beat.
Right.
Because the last one.
When you're number 9,
yep.
I have Arkansas 13 and Vanderbilt 14. And you know what? At this point, you start to wonder if Vanderbilt should be ahead of Arkansas. What is happening at Arkansas?
Well, I don't think
Now, they've lost some real close games.
They have. I don't think Sam Pittman's going to get fired.
No, he fired his offensive coordinator.
But I don't know if there's going to be hope for next year. Like, KJ's probably gone. He may have to stay because he may have hurt his draft stock. I don't know.
But stay for what?
Exactly.
He can, I guess he could transfer.
Yep. Hey, I'm going to read this out. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but
KJ, you want to play?
C. Rogers on the YouTube page saying, Nuño, I see that you're close to admitting there's a problem with coaching. I know you didn't say that, but I'm not hearing the same excuses like last year. Let's just make sure that people understand. This is a talk show, right? In a talk show, we examine the whys and the why nots, right? So when I say they're on their backup quarterback for the 3rd straight year, is it an excuse? Yeah. It's also a fact, and it's also not good enough. Just because you make a comment about like, oh, well, if they don't make this mistake, they win. Those are facts in the story. Also, a fact in the story is they keep making mistakes.
They keep making those mistakes.
So it's not. It's an excuse, but it's not an excuse. Is that? Anyway, is that? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I'm not approving the excuse. I'm not saying it's okay. You had a reason. I'm not saying it's okay to be on your backup quarterback and lose games. I'm just saying when you're on your backup quarterback, the production won't be the same. Would Alabama be the same with Tyler Buckner?
Obviously, they were not.
Would Tennessee be the same with the
They're not the same right this year with Milton.
Well, there you go. We can go. It doesn't mean it's okay. It's year 6, and this is 3 years in a row. I'm not saying it's okay.
You know why they keep making those mistakes?
Why?
Execution. Maybe you've heard that.
I've seen the meme. Look, I just want it to get fixed.
Yes.
In a talk show, we'll talk about why it possibly happened. Why? At the end of the day, they're responsible. My opinion of it, like, look, things got to get better. That's the facts. It's not an excuse. That's the truth. You can hear it how you want. I'm telling you, I'm not okay with it. I'm not making excuses for it. OB, great job as always, buddy.
All right, thanks.
Why'd you laugh?
Because you're on your rant and then you just stopped it. Okay, great job.
Yeah, by the way, because the go hour's over. Thanks
It's
to
over.
the warehouse of CC Creations. John Harris coming up next. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour just ended, by the way. I got muscle memory talking about that thanks to our friends at Maroon U. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon U. Let's go to the hotline. We're joined by my buddy, the professor, John Harris, Texans sideline reporter, and of course, footballtakeover.com. Hola, Juan. ¿Cómo estás, señor?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
You know, I'm here. So I'm here because I'm in a better place than I was a week ago. But I'm not in a great place when it comes to Aggie football, but I'm in a better place. And the reason I'm at a better place is I feel that A&M should mop the floor with South Carolina. I could be wrong, right? Like, I have opinions that are sometimes spot on. I picked A&M to beat Alabama the year they won 41-38. I picked them to win this year, and I picked them to win last year. And I was wrong, right? But every once in a while I get them right. So it's not about opinions that make what I'm talking about. But I feel based on what I've seen from South Carolina and what I've seen from A&M and what A&M is really good at and what South Carolina struggles at home, there's no reason for me to believe other than I'm an Aggie and I have apathy at times that A&M should lose this game.
Well, I want to make sure I say this nicely, but that it's happened, David, not so much South Carolina, but that team, last year was Appalachian State. Appalachian State comes in and they're not the same sort of thing because obviously Appalachian State's a Sun Belt team versus an SEC team. But Appalachian State comes here with a lot of good athletes that if you step wrong, they can hurt you because they're a very athletic team. But it's Appalachian State; you're going to get it done. It's kind of like South Carolina this year. Offensive line is just god awful, but they got a quarterback that can hurt you. And Spencer Rattler. Xavier Legette has turned into one of the best receivers in the SEC, arguably the best deep threat and explosive playmaker in the SEC. And it's not two guys that can kill you, but I'm with you, David. There's just this up and down nature of, okay, this should be a game you take care of. Take care of business and start getting yourself ready to go to Oxford for what I think going to end up being three of the most important 4 games that Jimbo is going to coach at Ole Miss and then home Mississippi State. We said before the year, what did we say? You can't lose the Mississippi schools. Not denigrating the Mississippi schools, but you can't lose the Mississippi schools. You can't lose to Auburn. You can't lose to South Carolina. Take care of those games, and at worst, you end up 8-4. And then obviously you got to tangle with LSU. Now I think LSU is a little better than I thought, but defensively they're still a mess. So, and you got to go to LSU and beat them at LSU, which is never easy. So that makes this one that much more important for Jimbo and the staff, because going to Oxford, going to Baton Rouge, let's say, now I'm going to turn tables on you, David. I'm going to ask you. Let's say take care of business against South Carolina. I know I'm taking it for granted, but let's just say that. But A&M loses at Oxford and in Baton Rouge. What are we talking about on Sunday after that LSU game? Is Jimbo Fisher still the head coach of A&M if that happens and they end up, that would make them, 7-5? And more than likely a candidate for the Texas Bowl here, which I would love because I would love to see you and I'd love to see the Aggies here. And I know they'll get support no matter what. But 7-5, what do you think happens with Jimbo Fisher?
Nothing.
You think things just stay as they are?
No, I think there'll be changes to the staff, and he'd be back. If you're asking my opinion, he'd be back.
Yeah, I'm asking your opinion.
Yeah, he'd be back next year at 7-5. I do believe that. I don't like it. I mean, look, I think 7-5 feels likely because they haven't won on the road.
Right.
Not saying I'm okay with it, and I'm not saying that they're okay with it, right? But I think the contract is what it is. So they're going to have to try to make this work. And if you don't lose a lot of guys, which who knows at 7-5 if you do or you don't, if you are 7-5, you can keep the bulk of that class and you make necessary changes to the staff again, right? And we all know the areas that need to be better. You find those areas and you make them better. He's got next year to get them to 10 wins.
It's such a tricky spot to be in because I think what we have seen, and this is, you kind of go through this with coaches that are, on the hot seat, because, and growing up in a coaching family, sometimes this is really hard to talk about because I know what one coaching decision can do for dozens of coaching families. Like I get that. I understand that completely. But if we were to say, all right, yeah, that game that A&M played defensively at the University of Miami was just god awful. But since then, DJ Durkin and that defense have gotten it done. I mean, yeah, they got beat at Tennessee, but 7 points came off a punt return. I mean, that defense has been lights out. So, I mean, you'd like to keep continuity on that side of the ball, right? I mean, you'd like to keep it continuous over there because it sounds like and looks like they're starting to get it going. I know they'll have some personnel losses, but they're still going to have, from the class of 2022, they're still going to have a number of players from that class. It's just a matter of keeping them all together. And I would think if the defensive coordinator stays, the players may end up staying because that's starting to come together. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what's going on in the offense? Well, you can make excuses for it and say, well, we lost Connor Wigman early in the season. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But you still should be making strides with whatever personnel you end up having, especially when your personnel seemingly is as high-level talent at key spots. Now, I don't think the offensive line has played particularly well. And I'm not totally sure how all those pieces have come together. But, does he bring Bobby Petrino back? Because if they end up losing at Mississippi and LSU, my guess is it's the offense that hasn't risen to that particular level. If the offense rises to the level that we think it should be, obviously, without Connor, I get that, but rises to a particular level where they're putting up consistently 375 to 400, they're putting up 25 to 30 points, they can go win those two ball games. I don't think there's any question because the defense is where it is right now. Then they can win those particular ball games. But man, 7-5, that is going to be a tough sell to the bagmen, to the money men in College Station around the state of Texas to say, hey, we expected a whole lot more ROI. If you want to turn it to a business discussion, we expected a whole lot a lot higher ROI, and I think everybody's like, yeah, we definitely did. So when's it going to happen? And I think that's the tough part.
John, let me ask you this: is this team 4-3 if Connor Wigman doesn't get hurt?
I think I can make a case for 5-2 for sure. I think they win one of Alabama or Tennessee, and probably Tennessee, but they win one of for sure. So I would say 5-2, yeah. And then I would also look at the Mississippi schools and say, okay, not so much Mississippi State. I don't think Mississippi State defensively has got some players, but offensively, they've gone to more of a running dual threat quarterback who gave Arkansas that issue. They scored 7 points against Arkansas. No, they won because they got 3. But the Ole Miss game, I would feel a little bit better about Connor. But it's not as if Max can't play. It's not kind of the point. I just think Connor has just a higher level of skill. I'd like to see Max just speed everything up.
Yes.
Everything seems so lethargic and slow. And I think with Connor, things would speed up a little bit. And the more snaps that he got as a first-year starter, the better off they would end up being.
Well,
so,
Johnny, let me interrupt. Didn't we say the same thing when Calzada was quarterback and Haynes King? Like it was a little bit slow. So I'll throw this out at you. When I say if, people get mad. If the offensive line is better, and why isn't it better? Like, what would you do to fix the offensive line? Because I never had this team winning 10 games this year. I had them at 8-4, 9-3 with a healthy Connor Wigman. So losing to Tennessee and Bama doesn't hurt my feelings the way it does others. It does because it's not. I want more than that, right? But it became hard for me to think that they were going to win, even though they had chances in both of those games, and you could say should have won those games. But
I think the one thing I would do, David, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is that everything seemingly in the passing game is long. It's straight drops 5 to 7 yards, or out of shotgun, it's another 3 steps out of shotgun. Everything is long. You can help your offensive line, no matter who's up there, with a little bit more quick game. And we talked about that. We saw with the Texans against the Steelers. I mean, we had Jaron Christian and Austin Deculus trying to block Alex Highsmith. Like, you can't get a 5-step drop off in that. So the Texans went to a much quicker passing game. 3 steps, boom. Or they would chip, double. They would do everything on those edges to help out the edges in particular. And I feel like it's the A&M edges that really need some help. Now, does it take a receiver out? Yeah. So I would throw much more quick game. 1, 2, 3, throw. 1, 2, 3, throw. And you can only run a quick game if you've got some of the best receivers in the SEC. Oh, you do. So use your quick game. Now, it's also on receivers to get open a little faster and let Max get the ball out of his hands. So I think a little bit more quick game. And then if you're getting that beat that badly up front, some screens, working some slip screens. And I know some teams, you can't get screens to work at all. But if you're getting beat up front, man, invite them in, slip screen, it's going to slow them down. Anything to slow down a defensive line. Quick game does it, and also screens do it. So I'm not saying you go to it all the time, but I also think part of it is Max, the processing, just processing it all. And I think part of that comes with, whatever offense they're running. There's a lot to process. But I do think some quick game, I know what the read is right away. This is a 1-2 read, bang, bang. I'm going to make this read right away, as opposed to my progression is 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and I'm going 1 to 3 to 2. And that doesn't help your offensive line. Now, can the offensive line do some things better individually no matter what? Absolutely. There's no question they can. I think that group, there have been times where I watch them like, they just got beat on a simple. There was a sack. There was a sack on Max where Tennessee ran a TE stunt. So the tackle slid out to the outside and the end then bumped inside. David, it's something that you rep in 2 days every single day. And David, right guard, right tackle, could not have screwed it up worse. And both guys end up getting into Max's face. And it's like, wow, like you're going to mess it up, I guess. But to do it that badly, like one guy's got to pick up. No. So I think it's been a lot of different things going on with the offensive line, but I think you can help them with some of the things you do offensively. And that to me is always the charge. Don't let game wreckers wreck the game. Okay, well, we can't block them one-on-one. All right, we'll double them. All right, well, we don't want to take receivers out of routes. All right, then quick game. Okay, well, there you go. There's really no fight against that. Well, if they know it's going to be quick, well, yeah, okay. So what? Your receivers, 5 stars across the board, seemingly, they got to win routes. They got to win against DBs. That's what you went and got them for, right? So I think all of that can help the offensive line, which gets you back to it's South Carolina on Saturday. And it's a team that has some athletes at key spots, but it's a game that you should just systematically go through and win this thing by 2 touchdowns and get yourself ready to go to Mississippi the next week.
John, you win by a few scores. You score 30+. Your D-line feasts on that offensive line, and you find that offense that you had for the most part in the second half against Auburn and for the first half against Arkansas. You do it for 4 quarters. Doesn't it change? I know that some will still be like, they'll still find a way to mess it up, but doesn't it change the way the team goes into Oxford?
Sure, absolutely. There's no question. I mean, obviously I'm not in the locker room, so I can't tell the confidence level of where they are. But I would think putting it together for 4 quarters, then you go to Mississippi, and now, crazy as it sounds, the pressure's on Ole Miss. Number 12 team in the country, only 1 loss. They still have playoff possibilities. They still have SEC championship possibilities. The pressure's all on Ole Miss now. And now you've gotten confidence with how you played against South Carolina. And a team with confidence, with a lot of young talent, you get 1 break to go your way. Who knows? Especially when you're playing a team that might get tight. Jackson Dart has I've seen plenty of games of Jackson Dart that have gone sideways because he's tried to do too much. He holds the ball too long. He throws it too early. I mean, like his timing can be all off. He can run too often. So, yeah, absolutely. I think going in to that game against South Carolina, playing 60 minutes like you should and you can, keeping the defense at a consistent level, getting more production and efficiency from the offense, that should make you I don't want to say a wild card going to Ole Miss, but I would say that Ole Miss is going to be on high alert. The scariest teams to me, David, are young, athletic teams that haven't hit their stride. Those are the ones that scare me the most, especially on the road, because what do they got to lose? What do they got to lose at that point? They're playing Mississippi could be top 10 by the time we get to the Ole Miss game. So, yeah, it's a scary team. I would not, if I'm Ole Miss, I would be very, very weary of that team coming in because they know how talented it can be. I know how hot it can get. And I know my team has a tendency to fall into some lapses, especially at the quarterback position. So, and I'm not totally convinced Ole Miss's defense is all that. So I do think that A&M can move the ball in that game. But you start thinking about Ole Miss, and then South Carolina steps up and beats you 28-27. And now you're in a whole mess of junk you don't want to be in.
Last thing for you, John. You could make the comment, or I could at least, that this is the most important stretch of Jimbo Fisher's tenure at A&M because these are this next month, right? ACU, throw it out the window. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, right? All those games. You built this team to beat those teams. LSU is a different kind of animal, right?
Right.
And we'll deal with that at that point at the end of the year. But these next four, I mean, this kind of determines how you are going to be perceived entering next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, I think there's a lot on the line for Jimbo. My thought is, those people that have stepped out on a limb and said, okay, we're going to pay Jimbo as a top 5 coach. We deserve and we want top 5 results, and you're not ending up getting it. You're going to be pretty upset. And, when we talk about each and every year in the SEC, when you're talking about it, Alabama was always up there, now it's Georgia, whatever. But in the SEC West, you're like, look, you can't lose the Mississippi schools, and you can't lose the Mississippi schools. You got to beat Arkansas. Auburn can be hit or miss depending on where Auburn is, but you can't lose to the Mississippi schools and you can't lose to Arkansas. You got to go take care of those 3 for sure. Okay, that's a start. That's a starting point. Then LSU, okay, like you said, we'll go battle LSU, and it's obviously a offensively potent team. I said earlier, I think that these are 4 or 5 of the most important games that Jimbo's going to coach. And I think it could tell us a lot about what the future might end up being at A&M. And I'm curious, very curious, to see how A&M reacts starting this Saturday. I don't want to see them go through the motions and get a narrow win. Just go out there and do what you're supposed to do. Beat that team 31-17 and get out of Dodge and get ready for Ole Miss. And then let it all hang out, man. Go to Ole Miss and let it all hang out offensively, defensively, and go upset those guys and knock them off their apple cart. But take care of business against South Carolina first. But, David, I'm right there with you. I think these are 4 of the 5 most important games that Jimbo's going to coach. And the man won a national championship in 2013. So these are hugely important for a good number of reasons.
Johnny, I appreciate you, brother. Make sure everybody checks out footballtakeover.com. Thanks, man.
You got it, brother. Thank you, David.
See you, bro. All right, coming up next on TexAgs Radio, we're going to have Coach G in studio. They had a big win in Knoxville, and now they're going to travel to LSU Thursday for a chance to win the SEC West, the division. So we'll talk to him about all that. Before we do that, we're talking Heritage Films. So John Harris worked with me at 1560 The Game back in the day. That's how Johnny and I met. And our boss, our program director with Chance McClain, who helped start that station, and was kind of the pioneer of what we were doing there with 1560. And he's done so many things before that and after that. He made the Yao Ming song that it went global. It was all over the place when Yao was coming into the league. He's done a lot of other cool things as well. He's done Hollywood movies, Broadway musicals, and now he has Heritage Films where they tell people stories. He's a storyteller at art. He's an artistic one, creative guy. And he'll do these year flick stories, which is basically these 20-minute videos about the kids, your 12-year-old, your 15-year-old, your college-bound kid, right? Like where they're 20-minute Q&A videos done with the highest form of editing and lights and pictures and videos. It's just great, right? And with those, you get to know your kid on a different level, Q&A, and then next year you do a follow-up, and then you kind of see their growth throughout the year. These benchmark videos are amazing. That is through Year Flicks. Check it out on the Heritage Films website. But you can also do a Heritage Film, which is these 2-hour documentaries that are typically reserved for the family patriarch, right? Telling his story and how the family all came together, or the family business, the family wrench, or a bunch of buddies that get together and they have wings on Saturday and they play dominoes. Whatever it may be that your crew does, let chance be an eye in the sky with Heritage Films. The website, yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. I feel like I'm at a job interview. I got my two bosses here in studio on the other side. Dave Ellis, play-by-play for A&M Soccer. Coach G in the house. Hello, friends.
Howdy.
Howdy. How are you guys?
Doing great. Couldn't be better.
Well, let's start off with the big win at Tennessee and what hopefully that means here down the stretch, because it all comes down to what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, it was the game on Sunday was a pressure game for our players. It was a game that they really needed to win to number one, to strengthen their resume for another NCAA tournament bid, and because Tennessee was another top 25 opponent, a road opponent, and we of course spotted them a goal in the first 5 minutes, and then came from behind to take the lead going into halftime. Then spotted them 2 more goals to go behind, but then late in the game tied it, and then less than a minute later took the lead back, and then won it going away to get a huge road win in Knoxville, which is never easy. And with that win, now that's a big boost. We've moved up pretty strongly in the RPI. That's 3 top 25 road wins. We've got a really strong resume right now. And then in the SEC race, it's put us, definitely we're a lock in the SEC tournament. And this game tomorrow in Baton Rouge, if we win this, then we win at least a share of the SEC West championship. So, that's why our players come here, is to win titles, and this will be another championship for us here. So, all to play for, and postseason is something that we're excited about.
Dave, as you're calling that game against Tennessee, tell me if you had the same emotions I had. It felt similar to Bama, but different, because Bama punched, then A&M struck back. Tennessee would punch, and A&M struck back several times.
Right, and I thought that was the thing that I was most proud of in watching the team play, was that we came back twice against a team that Tennessee was the only team in the SEC against whom the Aggies have a losing record. We were 2-7 against Tennessee for some
they've been our bogey team ever since we came in.
Unexplainable reason, and so we go in, they score first, and then we come back, we tie it up, and then first 5 minutes of the second half, they go back up with 2 quick goals, and then we got off the mat again. And I think it said a lot about the character of this team and what they're willing to do to be able to win. And it was fun to watch. I was 70 years old when that game started. I felt 80 when it was over.
So help me understand the seedings, because, there's a chance you have a share of the SEC West and maybe win it outright, but you could drop. I mean, there's a lot of teams within millimeters of each other.
Razor thin, yeah. So the way it goes, I think it's similar to the way the SEC does baseball. So what the SEC wants is, if you're going to have divisional champions, this is the last year that they'll be doing this with the new teams coming in the league next year. And if you're going to have divisional champions, then there's got to be a consequence or reward to that. So the reward is that's the way they're going to seed the tournament. So the number 1 seed in the East, the number 1 seed in the West, the champion of the East and the West, is going to be the number 1 and 2 seeds in the tournament. So that's the way it works. And the way that they determine the champion in those divisions is just points within that division. So our game against Tennessee did not go into play for our Western race, but it does go into the seedings for the overall. So, when you look at the overall points, I mean, it is razor thin. We've got 11 points total, but we've got 10 points in the West. So it's, or actually we've got 14 points total, and we've got 10 points in the West. So it's super thin. So we win tomorrow, we win the West. If we don't win tomorrow, then we could fall as far as 8th place, which means that we could have to play on Sunday in the first round games. We win tomorrow, again, we could be as high as the number 1 seed in the damn tournament, or and get a bye in the first round and not have to play until Tuesday. But we could have to play on Sunday. So there's everything to play for, because as we get to this part of the season, getting a round off is so unbelievably important just for what it does for your body, because, so you have an opportunity to play a really physical game and run 7 to 8 miles, or not do that, take a day off, and then potentially play a team that just did that. It's a big advantage. And when we're talking about then the NCAA tournament starts the weekend right after this tournament, when you might have to play 3 games or even 4 games, it really adds up, and it's something that is, again, it just points to what is so important about this game. And it's just as important for LSU. LSU needs a result in this game to ensure that they're going to get into the SEC tournament and just to cement their place in the NCAAs. So it's all to play for, and it's it's kind of what you want. You want these games to matter, and tomorrow night matters. And so the way the SEC network has lined this up, this is the marquee game. This is the last game of the night. Everything points to Texas A&M at LSU.
Let me ask you about the transfer portal and how it's changed the game and how you got it right this year. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you haven't gotten it right, but this year it's like what Jazz is doing, what Sammy Smith is doing, and there's others. Like how bringing in personalities to a team can enhance or take you a different direction. It has enhanced the play on the pitch. Right.
Well, we're kind of unique in that there's not that many players out there across the country that can step in and help Texas A&M. We've got a very elite roster. And so we have to be really picky about what we can, who we can bring into the team. And Jasmine Wilkinson is one of those players who we thought could step in and can help out. Well, this week she's the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. That's someone who can help out. And then Sammy Smith has been just brilliant as a graduate transfer. Was an all ACC player at Boston College, and has fit. Both of those players culturally have fit in perfect with our team. So yeah, there are 2 great examples of how the transfer portal has worked. Now, other places it hasn't worked for people. People have come in, they've been poisoned to the well of other teams. So it has been good for some. Both of those players, it's been a great experience for them. It's for Sammy coming from Boston to College Station, she was looking for a different experience. You can check that box. Yeah. Very different for her. But it's also been a great opportunity for Jazz, because she was playing behind someone that she just wasn't really given an opportunity. The coach at Arizona State is a friend of mine. He knew that she needed a new setting, and she's been able to get that here, and here she is now. She's blossomed into a really, really great forward, and has done well in this environment.
Last thing for you, winning on the road, difficult to do, especially in Baton Rouge. You all have played well on the road. Just talk about the challenge and keeping that going.
Well, we've talked about a lot. Brian Pitzinger, who's our sports psychologist, works with a lot of the teams at Texas A&M. We talked about all the benefits of what this is going to be, and that you can't get clouded in what the benefits are, because it's the process of what you have to do. What was the process in this last game? Well, the process was, Jazz scored our tying goal in the 77th minute. She was in the middle of 5 different players. What did she do? Well, she fought like hell. That's how she got a ball surrounded by 5 Vols to toe poke and put in the back of the net. It was the fight. It wasn't the finish. It was the fight that got her the chance to go. And before that, it was Liv who got a little flick on the ball, and it was our smallest player on the team, a ball that was played up, and Liv Fetcher goes up and gets a head on it. Who would have predicted that the smallest player on our team was going to go and do it? Well, it was her job at that point in time. It was that process to get it done. So follow through on the process of what you have to do, your role at this point in time. Do it to the max. Do a little bit more than what your job implies, and then those rewards come to you. That's what it's about. And so going on the road, you definitely have to do your job and maybe a little bit more, and to the max. We need the energy from the rest of the team that's there on the bench, and then when you step in, add a little bit more to it. Support your teammates, and that's how you win. That's what it takes, and that's been our secret to success for so many years.
Dave, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So this game, by the way, 7:30 on the SEC network, and you can listen to it, David.
You bet. 97.3 FM here in the Brazos Valley, Radio Aggie Land, 12th Man mobile app if you're somewhere else on the planet. we got you covered.
All right. I hope to see you there, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we come back, Garrett Chadwell in studio, talk a little Aggie women's golf next on TexAgs Radio. All right, we are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Garrett Chadwell is with us here on TexAgs, and we're talking a little Aggie women's golf. And I'm trying to figure out, we're talking about how busy you are.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't end, bro. And I just broed you on the air, but like
it's all right, bro.
It's like June we're talking, August we're talking. Like it's a fun grind, but it is a grind.
It is a grind. And then obviously we have a very I don't know if active family is the right word too. Wife is super busy. Had some great experiences this year with her. Our 5-year-old she just turned 5 today, so
happy
it's
birthday.
Just happy birthday, Chesney. She's not listening. She's in school. But it is. It's like it's wild to think that this is now a lifestyle for sure.
So how many different events have you all participated in this fall?
Well,
and there's 2 going on right now.
Last time I was in here was, I don't know if it was before Pebble or after Pebble. So we played at Pebble Beach right on Labor Day weekend. Then a week after that, we played at the Annika Invitational up in Minneapolis. And then I think we had like 3 weeks in, we played at Trinity Forest in Dallas for the Stevens Cup and have had a couple-week break. And now we play our last event, the East Lake Cup, which is the 4 semifinalists from last year's National Championship. And we have 2 young ladies competing at the World Amateur. right now, and Cayetana is tied for the lead at 68, and Adela shot even par, which I think was 30th or so, high 20s, something like that. So today was the first round of 4.
Okay.
And they'll fly and meet up with us Saturday or late, actually Sunday, and then we'll get them back home, and then we'll take 5 young ladies out to compete in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, okay.
So it's literally like, just crossing past. Almost feels like at an airport with a lot of people around us. And it's like, it's a good, I would say we've used the word distraction a lot this year with our team of both good and bad. You know, Jenny was just secured her professional status, which is a dream, really. But that's 2 weeks away from the team. And then, you know, you have these young ladies compete at the World Am, which they'll be gone for like a week and a half. So it's been interesting. And I've tried to remind Giovanna and Austin that I've never had this as a coach, but it's a good problem to have. That means you got young ladies accomplishing a lot of things outside of the team. But it's hard to keep everybody together too.
Sure.
So we're learning on the fly and trying to encourage them and help them accomplish those dreams, but meanwhile trying to keep the team moving forward as well.
And so, if I understand this correctly, there's an overlap. So you'll be going to Atlanta, taking on some of the best, and there'll be a different look to the roster, right?
Yeah, we're going to have, we'll have some faces that we won't have anybody on the road that hasn't played in a collegiate event. Just won't be very familiar faces maybe for this semester or maybe last year. It's looking like me and Nixon will get a second start. Lana might get her first start this year, and then you'll have Zoe, Blanca, Jenny. That's what it's looking at. We're playing the last round of qualifying today, and that's kind of how it looked going into today. So as long as there's nothing changed, that's probably what our lineup will be. And in Eastlake is we play one round of stroke play on Monday, and then the 4 teams go into match play, and we'll play a match on Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's going to be a great experience, and for us, we get to relive some memories from last year. It's really a big celebration, really, of the year and that week at Greyhawk.
How about the season or the fall that Adela's had?
Man, walking with her at Trinity Forest, I would say she's been one of the best players in college golf for the past year and a half. The best compliment I could give her when she walked off, walked off the green and was disappointed. I was like, "You're not the young lady that showed up here, 2 years ago." The way she handled adversity in that round, the way she, came back, she's transformed her body. She's a great leader, and she just tirelessly works at it. So, man, I wish we could have her 4 more, but that young lady is going to be playing great golf beyond here as well. I'm excited for her and what the spring's going to bring for her.
Fall success does not ensure spring success, but it certainly puts you on the right path, right?
Yeah, it does. We've seen enough good things. We really haven't put a good week together. I was talking with Jenny and Zoe on the putting green yesterday about it. She's like, we really haven't. Some people played great at certain times, some people haven't. So we really haven't put one together. And if there's a time, to not do that, I'd much rather be in the fall than, March, April, or May. But it's such a long year, and I'm thankful we're getting a lot of these, maybe some younger players some reps, and so it just shows that we have, competition on campus, which is, I've said this since we got here, is really hard to recreate. So, everybody kind of has to stay sharp and be ready because we start pretty fast in the spring. So I'm excited for that, to be able to get some of these new faces some experience.
Do you have to adjust the way you perceive where you are based on success? So you've been playing at this amazing level that I think raises the way your expectations, right?
Yep.
But a normal season, there's this up and down. So do you almost have to check yourself?
Trying to, and I feel like I'm in that. I don't know where I'm at in the up or down right now, because I'm trying to put perspective on it. I think our schedule is the number 3 toughest schedule in the country. You're doing that without some of your best players at certain times this fall. I don't think we're complacent. We're just trying to get a pulse on really what's going on. And I think just trying to find perspective, because it's a first for all of us. We have a new assistant here as well too, and just finding a rhythm to the 3 of us and people coming in and out. It's just the best word I could use was a distraction, and it's not even a bad word. It's just there's just so many different things going off that we haven't had to process. So I've prided my teams on peaking at the right time, and we're going to have a good break. We'll get some things done in the off season, and then we start really quick in the middle of January to start getting the rust off and get ready for a stretch run to do some great things.
You guys are playing at such a great level, and that is now continued. What about the younger players, and they get to see it, and hopefully, like, they're getting opportunities as well. Adapt that as they move forward, as they take the mantle.
It's invaluable, right? Like I think that's what I just trying to say. With the experience is, we lose 3 out of arguably our top 5 next year, and it's not I don't even like the word rebuild. It's we'll reload, but we're going to have some faces that have been on the road, have played in this really tough schedule, and they'll be ready because it's hard to replace that experience. But we've started to replace it now in a way with getting them some reps, and those young ladies will play events through the winter season, and we've got some people that are hungry, and I think that's the thing that you would say about Sky and Lana and Mia, that they're not waiting their turn. They're sticking their nose in there and being competitive. You can't push them in there, push them in there. They're very competitive, and so obviously that's what attracted us to them in a way. But you never know, because it's golf. It's different. Sometimes you just sit and wait your turn, and then you have to go through that growing pain, a process of getting comfortable on the road. But they started now, and I'm thankful for that. And I think so are the upperclassmen are being pushed.
So help me understand the rest of the way. So you've got these next 2 weeks, then a little bit of a break, and then when you start up again.
Yeah, we'll start recruiting. We have an off-season period. We have a little bit of time around the holidays, but on the women's side, we don't have a recruiting calendar where the guys only have 40 days they can go out on the road. We really have 355 days. So we'll do some evaluating over the holiday break, and then January 11th, we had to San Diego to do a match against Southern California. The national championship is moving from Arizona to San Diego, so we'll kind of get a feel for the locale there. And then our first event is in Puerto Rico right at the beginning of February, and then we go all the way to Memorial Weekend. So it doesn't really stop. We get some downtime just briefly around the holidays, but due to the nature of our sport, we're already evaluating the 2026 class. We're pretty much finishing for 2025, and for a lot of sports, that's ahead. I was hearing that Joni and had some 2024s in the other day, and we've been done with that class for 6 months now.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe more than that. So that's just a little bit of our sport, but as you almost said, like June, it just doesn't really stop. As I said, daughter birthday, like we got to carve out some time for that too. So just trying to find a balance.
Go enjoy that family time, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garrett Chadwell here in studio. When we come back, Chris Phillips, Spurs Up Show, South Carolina Insider, that and more next on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Talk a little South Carolina here on the program. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show. He's been on here before. I've been on his show as well. Chris, what's up, man?
David, what's going on, man? Appreciate you having me. Really excited to chat. Obviously looking forward to the game on Saturday and a pair of teams that need a win, that's for sure. So excited to chat, my friend. Appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, look, I love Shane Beamer. I think his passion, his energy, it's got to work, and I'm curious why it's not working this year. The defense has been a problem. The offensive line has been a problem. Spencer's been really good. There's others. Why is it not working this year?
Yeah, it's a laundry list of reasons, I think, guys, that South Carolina has struggled this year. Many more things they do poorly than do well this season. You mentioned the offensive line. I posted a stat yesterday. Obviously, you guys know Texas A&M, how good they've been. Getting after the quarterback, tied first in the country in sacks. South Carolina offensively ranked 127th. They've allowed 31 sacks this season. So they've dealt with a slew of injuries at the offensive line position. I mean, up to 8 or 9 offensive linemen they've had out. Shane Beamer's mentioned they've pulled in some tight ends this week to play tackle, to be on their scout team, what have you. Like, they don't even have a second team offensive line right now. So offensive line's been a big problem. Spencer Rattler, give him all the credit in the world, has tried to combat that and has played really, really good football under duress and under those circumstances. Then you mentioned, Dave, defensively, it's just been bad. If it's not one thing, it's another for the Gamecocks defense. It seems as if when they sell out to stop one thing or another, the other falls flat, right? They sell out to stop the run, the opponent's hitting big plays in the passing game. They sell out to stop that pass, they're giving up over 200 yards on the ground. So I'm not exactly sure where the answers come, if there are any. I think South Carolina's in a position where if they're going to win ball games down this stretch, they're going to have to outscore their opponents, because you look back over the history, first 3 years of Beamer, they haven't held many Power 5 teams to under 30 points. So I would expect a higher scoring game, especially from the Aggie side of things on Saturday. But it's been a slew of issues, guys. And like I mentioned too, Dave, injuries. I mean, your top target, Juice Wells, has been out practically the entire year. Injuries across the offensive line, on the defensive side as well. So again, for the Gamecocks football team this year, if it's not one thing, it seems like it's another.
We're talking a little South Carolina football here as the A&M is ready to host them. Let's talk a little bit about that injury situation on the line, because I feel like I keep seeing the injury list pop up, and it's this guy and that guy. And is it a physical problem? Tell me about the injuries and how they've occurred.
Yeah, Dave, anytime you have this number of injuries, people start asking questions about the strength and conditioning coach. Hey, coach, what are we doing in our off-season training? What are we doing in in-season training? What have you? And I mean, it's really easy to fans want to hold somebody accountable, right? It has to be someone's fault. You hate to sit there and say it's just dumb luck, but I think some of it, my friend, is dumb luck. I think some of it is just really unfortunate, especially when all of the injuries, it seems like, are hitting you at one specific position group. But I mean, even coming out of this last game against Missouri, South Carolina, to add insult to injury, Xavier Legette goes down middle of that game. He missed the rest of that game with an upper body injury. He's questionable, which around Columbia, when somebody's questionable, a lot of times they're missing the game, right? Vague injury reports, if you will. But on the offensive front, man, I mean, Big Tree Babalade is a guy, a young true freshman. They've been playing out at the tackle spot. Now he's questionable. Trovon Bowe at right guard are the big-time freshmen they've been playing. Even when they were healthy, Dave, that's a good point. Even when they were healthy, 2 of their starting 5 were true freshmen, because those were 2 of the most talented guys they had. And, the veterans they had starting out the season just weren't getting the job done, gave up 9 sacks in the season opener against North Carolina. So they've tried a bunch of different things, man. I mean, against Florida, they had a completely new right side of the offensive line, and then one of those guys got hurt. So, again, it's just been one thing after another every single week. And I tell you, man, I don't know what starting 5 they're going to roll out there, because it's like, okay, you look around and say, well, who is available? Who can go? I think that determines a lot of what they do on the offensive front.
Chris, how big was that A&M win last year for them? Because I felt like the season was on the brink at that point. I still think those 5 minutes cost A&M the game, right? The first 5 minutes, the first play, to be honest with you. But it seemed like they found their mojo with that win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a spark, I think, for sure, Dave. And although South Carolina couldn't capitalize on that momentum, I think it was the next week they were defeated by Missouri at home. And so South Carolina, right, they've been a very inconsistent team over the first 2+ years of Shane Beamer. And I think that's going to happen when you're building a program and you've got some deficiencies maybe at the line of scrimmage and You're just sort of figuring some things out. You're getting some bad matchups, if you will. But I think certainly, you look at for a guy, Dave, like Xavier Legette, who had that kickoff return opening the game for a touchdown. And he was a guy before that, very inconsistent career, had never really burst on the scene. And everybody has that light bulb moment. I think for him, that was the light bulb moment, because since that moment, he's been much, much better at the wide receiver position. Obviously, what he's done this year, I think one of the most dynamic players in the SEC. But it was a huge win. I think just getting the Aggie-sized monkey off your back and finally taking advantage of Texas A&M. And obviously, it was one of those things, if not now, when you looked at the situation that A&M was in. And obviously, you guys having a really rough season last year. And so,
got to jump in there, Chris. We got to hit a break. Sorry about that against the clock. I'll be on your show tomorrow. Thank you so much, bro.
Absolutely, Dave. Appreciate you.
It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for Recruiting Country, brought to you by our friends at Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in Bryan College Station. The original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest. Online at caprockhealthsystem.com. Ryan Bronner's with us. What's up, buddy?
How have you been doing filling the void of the bye week? At least we had some national talking points that happened that kind of I felt helped the week go by.
Who was it that I heard talking? Dion said, man, I can give you the play. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to stop it.
I still think that's ridiculous. If you're a defensive coordinator and you know the opposing play and you can't put yourself in a position to stop it, I mean, I get it. It's mano-a-mano, a lot of that stuff, but come on, man. You're going to tell me that if you know the plays, it's not helping? I know as a baseball guy that if I know the pitch that's coming, it helps infinitely. Infinitely, it helps. But it wasn't just, so the Michigan stuff, across the state of Michigan. Michigan State certainly made a decision in their pregame productions. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
What a boneheaded move. Whether you think that should or shouldn't be because it's history or whether, just can't do it.
You can't.
Just can't do it. And somebody should get fired over that, or at least be a suspension over that.
I don't understand how,
maybe firing's a little heavy-handed, but a suspension in the very least.
Well, what I don't understand is when you make these kind of moves that you know are questionable, how they can track that it was you who purchased it. Like, did you use your credit card? Like, I don't know.
Hold on, are you talking about Michigan or Michigan State?
Michigan.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I couldn't believe that the guy, so he's worked for the United States military at some point, right?
So you would think he's got covert, skills.
Espionage, all that kind of stuff, and then he's using his name, and there's, every day it seems like people were going through his Venmo history and looking at who he sent money to and then digging up all those, the past of those people. But the most interesting thing to me is, and I don't know if this is true, I saw it on the internet, so who knows if this is true. Somebody was saying that in the last 2 seasons, Michigan is 18-5-2 against the spread. That's crazy numbers.
18-5-2 against the spread. Wow.
And that's 25 games, and that's about what they've played in the last 2 years when you think about Big Ten championship and playoff. If that's true, I don't know if it's true, but if something like that is true, how do we know that when this started happening, the Michigan staff told their donors, hey, this is what we're doing, start betting our games, and then they're using the money made, the profits made to either fund NIL, facility upgrades. If that is what this is unraveling to, it's a big issue, right?
I can't imagine this ends well. I can't.
If they were I was talking to Billy about it yesterday. It's hard to imagine that they've used text messages to communicate all this stuff. But then again, like you said, the guy used his real name to purchase the tickets. So is there a paper trail or a text trail on this where the donors or whoever were kept abreast of what was happening and they keep winning against the spread and these donors are making a lot of profits in gambling on it, and then those profits are turned around because they're working in cohesion. Those profits are then turned around and used for the benefit of Michigan football. I think that's where they would have a big, big issue. Because you're not only calling the integrity of the game, the actual game, because you're stealing signs, but then you're calling into integrity recruiting and fundraising and all that kind of stuff.
So for a moment, before we get into some recruiting, because there's some good stuff to get into, let's talk for a moment about the Rangers and the D-backs. I feel like that's a great matchup for the Rangers.
I have no issue with the World Series. Once the Astros went out, and if it can't be the Astros, I honestly want the baseball fans in the state of Texas to experience what we've been able to experience for the last 7 years and a couple of times, like winning a World Series. There are a lot of Aggies that are Texas Rangers fans. I know how the Astros winning twice made me feel. They've never felt that. It's a cool feeling to see your team win an MLB championship. And I also think it is extremely good for the youth baseball in the state. I was just coaching 12 practices last night, and all the kids from 10 to 15, 16, 17 are talking about professional baseball in the state of Texas, Rangers, Astros, all that kind of stuff. It's really good for the state of Texas. So I'm pulling for the Rangers now, and it makes it a lot more palatable either way because I like the D-backs. I like the way they play. I like the way they're managed. I like their roster. And it's also really good for college baseball because if you go through these rosters, the American-born players that are on both of these teams that are going to play a lot, there are a couple that were high schoolers, but a lot of them played college baseball. A whole lot of them played college baseball.
What do you think they do with Dusty? Oh, not Dusty. What do you think they do at manager for the Astros?
I know people aren't going to. I'd like to have AJ Hinch back.
I would too.
Is it Espada? Yeah, I think he'd be good.
Keep the continuity.
They're in a really critical spot because that window can stay open. Because right now, I think for the Houston Astros, you have the best 1-2 combination offensively in Major League Baseball in Altuve and Alvarez. I don't think you can argue that. It's really unfortunate that Tucker was no good in the ALCS, and really Pena was no good either.
Right.
Pena's numbers took a massive hit from his rookie year to this year. You never thought in a million years that Kyle Tucker would turn into a snowman in the batter's box in the postseason, especially in that series. And that was the biggest difference to me, is that the Rangers' best players played better than the Astros' best players.
Yep.
I think the teams were extremely evenly matched, and the Rangers played the best at the right time. Over the course, how many times did they play in this year? Like 14 in the regular season, and then 7 games. And the Astros won more than the Rangers did, but it wasn't like such a wide margin where you're going, wow, they're way better. No, they're even teams, and the Rangers played better at the bigger moment.
Rangers have some staying power too, man.
They do. They're a young lineup, and we'll see what they do on the pitching side. Because
DeGrom will be back.
He's never finished a season healthy.
Yeah.
But Scherzer's aging. See what they do with Montgomery. They got some decisions to make too. But Houston, to keep this window open, they're going to have to be pretty savvy, I think, this offseason.
All right, let's get into some recruiting stuff. Micah Hudson was in town. Was he? Set it up for me. Micah's in town, and
yeah.
He
So
visit.
he took a trip to just see people.
Yeah.
He was around campus a little bit, but he just spent Saturday and Sunday in College Station. Left Sunday night and went back to Belton. It's interesting, right? Because now that's 2 trips in the last 3 weeks for him, one being an official visit for the Alabama game, and then one kind of a trip just to town on his own. I'd still lean heavily toward him signing with Texas Tech, but he sat down in this chair that I'm sitting in currently in an interview and told me that it's Texas Tech or Texas A&M. Like there's not a big crowd around his recruitment. It's basically those 2 schools. So he shows up to A&M 2 out of 3 weeks. And again, like I'm telling you, I would lean toward him signing with Texas Tech. But in the back of my mind, and having done this for a while, there's something that keeps him coming back, whether it's the relationship with people on staff, whether it's the feel of College Station, whether it's the proximity of College Station. You know, he can decide that he wants to come to town on a whim and make a hour and 20-minute drive. It's a little tougher to do that when you got to go out to Lubbock, right? If you want to drive out there, those are decisions that you have to make. And you know, maybe as he's driving to West Texas, sometimes like, man, this is way out here, you know, that kind of thing. So there's something that keeps him coming back to Texas A&M. And when you have a kid that keeps showing up, regardless of where you think you stood in the recruitment before or where you think you stand now, it's a little bit of that Evan Stewart vibe, right?
Yeah.
Where early in the recruiting cycle, A&M had no chance at Evan, and everybody was saying it. But he visited, then he showed up again, then he showed up again, and by the 3rd visit, you're going, okay, like
there's something here.
There's something here.
Yep.
The difference is that Evan was never committed at the time; he was uncommitted, and Micah is committed to Texas Tech, and keeping tabs on him and his visit plans over the course of the remainder of the season is going to be really interesting to follow. If he turns back up at A&M for South Carolina, Abilene Christian, or Mississippi State, then you're going, okay, that's 3 visits in a month or a month plus. There's something to this here.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of keeping tabs on it. Again, he's not in any kind of hurry, I don't think, if he was going to come off his decision to Texas Tech. I don't think he's in any kind of hurry to do that. He's a very cerebral kid, very aware kid. Looks at the surroundings, digests it, and then takes a little bit to make a decision on what he's going to do. Because if you'll remember, it took him a long time to commit to Texas Tech when everybody said they're way out in front, they're the clear leader. And it took him a while to commit to Tech. So I would imagine that if he's going to come off of that, it's going to be a similar process.
Explain this part to me, because this is the part I don't want to say I'm struggling with. I'm just trying to understand. Why does it feel like his passion or his decision, or he's considering A&M a little bit more closely during the storm? Like, why is it growing at this point? Has it always been there?
It's not like it's clear weather in Lubbock either.
Right.
Now, the difference is you're in a new era, like its second year of Joey McGuire. And so it's a little easier to sell the vision. But I do think he's just kind of I think Texas Tech and Texas A&M are the two schools that have done, A, the best job of recruiting him and building a relationship with him in his inner circle. And B, I think that they are what he's looking for in a college experience in terms of the town and the surroundings.
Okay.
I don't think he wants big and flashy, right? I mean, Texas never really played a role. USC never really played a role. He's a quiet kid, a reserved kid. So I think the low intensity or the laid back, laid back's a better word. The laid back nature of Lubbock and College Station kind of fits more what he's looking for.
Okay. I can get down with that. Cam Coleman also going to be coming by soon?
Oh, he'll be here this weekend.
Okay.
And they're on a bye week. By the way, he was
phenomenal,
just incredible last week. He's a superstar, man. And we've talked about it a lot on this show and in talking recruiting. Are you a prospect? Are you a player? Or are you both? You know, and he is a 5-star prospect, and he's producing at a 5-star level as a player this season, and he did in last season too. But this year, like last week, they played Auburn High School, and it was one of the bigger games in the state of Alabama. He went for 9 catches for 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. And this is not the only week he's had just insane numbers like that. So, and that's the bigger school divisions in the state of Alabama. So he is playing against the best competition out there and just putting up insane numbers. They're on a bye this week, and so we've been told that he is planning on making the flight over here and coming to the game on Saturday morning and spending the weekend in College Station. He's got family ties to the area, to Bryan and to Houston. And so I think, you know, we discussed this whenever he committed. Like, he lives in Alabama, but he's got ties to other places. So I don't necessarily think that it was a huge factor in his decision to stay in state. That being said, you can bet your bottom dollar that Auburn and Alabama are very much trying to get him to come away from that pledge to Texas A&M. And that's one of the things that I wrote about this week, David, was that, and I think we're probably going to talk about is how do you weather this storm and like who's coming at you, because the negative recruiting arrows are being flung every week from every direction. And that's why I think the bye week was really important for the A&M staff, was to get out there and try to quell some of that.
So let's talk about not all is lost. That was part of what you wrote yesterday, right? So Draylon Miller, was it last week? You know, he decides to decommit, and it felt like all these arrows are going to be coming at us, and they're coming, but that's been the only hit so far.
Right, that's the only place they've hemorrhaged, because it felt like a guy like Draylon, as talented as he is, as influential as he is, that would open the floodgates. And so, look, you have to give credit to the coaching and recruiting staff for stopping it right there. And based off everything I've heard, and I'll call Draylon or his family and talk to them about it, but it sounds like the door isn't completely shut on A&M there either. But they stopped it right there. And I think the goal in the here and now has got to be, you got to win. You got to win football games.
Yeah.
No question. But if you can win the next 2, that would be massive to keeping what you got on the recruiting front.
Because that's now a month. If you win the next 3, right? Because that's Mississippi State as well.
Look, this team, we know they could lose to South Carolina on Saturday. They can lose to Mississippi State at home, no question. But if you win this one and you go on the road and you beat Ole Miss, or ranked Ole Miss, you're going to be heavily favored over at Mississippi State and Abilene Christian at home. That means you roll into Baton Rouge at 8-3 with a 4-game winning streak, playing the best football that you've had over the last month, and with a chance to play spoiler for LSU and go 9-3 at their place. I think that would be enough momentum to get them to the finish line, regardless of the result of the LSU game. Unless it's
scoring, right?
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that they need to win, and it has to look a certain way. But we'll see. Like, there's no way to definitively know that. You know, if they're winning games 17-13, all those defensive guys are going to be fine.
Right.
But do the offensive guys go, okay, yeah, they're winning, but it still looks like the offense is just stuck in the mud? That will be up to the individual offensive players and how they make their decision. But regardless, you got to win the games to at least have that conversation. That being said, you got to get to Ole Miss without losing anybody else. If you can just keep the ship afloat right now. Don't let any more cracks happen. Keep what you got for the next couple of weeks and win those 2 games. I think that could propel you through the rest of the season. To me, it's more important to win the Ole Miss game than the LSU game. Because if you win the Ole Miss game, you're probably setting yourself up for that month run.
Yep.
You're going to get a couple of home games in there to get guys the visits. I think that's more – and did you just see what happens? If you're 8-3 going into Baton Rouge, I think the A&M fan base would feel okay. Like, not what we wanted. Not what we wanted, but they've bounced back.
But they've weathered.
Yeah.
They did as well as they could considering where they've been.
Look, I'm just looking at it through a recruiting lens. That's the best case scenario. Go to Baton Rouge 8-3 because if you do that, I think you will have kept everybody else in the class and remained in the conversation for your top targets.
I'm trying to remember. They have lost only 1 game that they were favored in, right? Because they weren't favored against Bama. It was close, but they weren't.
They favored at Miami?
I think they were favored going to Miami, yes. Yeah. You lost that one. You weren't favored at Tennessee. You're favored this weekend. You won't be against Ole Miss.
No.
And you probably won't be against LSU. I was going back and forth with an LSU fan because he thinks, LSU season is still TBD. There's a lot of TBD in the SEC.
Dude, they've got a big problem in the secondary. The transfer from Syracuse is not with the team right now, and neither is Denver Harris.
Right.
So they were already thin at corner, and they're going to get even thinner unless those guys, I guess, get back in the good graces of the program. But, the way Bama's playing football right now, offensively, they're going to need help in the secondary. We saw what Jermaine Burton can do when he and Milroe get in a rhythm. And I think Milroe has really gotten
improved.
better.
He has improved. And by the way, part of the reason I thought LSU would take a step back is I did not expect Jaden Daniels to have the
He's
year.
awesome.
He's
incredible.
But nobody in the country thought he'd be having this kind of year after he got hurt a couple times last year. He's just transformed his game.
He has. And who knows if the A&M offense can transform in 2 weeks. But it is, I wrote it. There is real pressure to perform on Saturdays now. They have completely eliminated their wiggle room. They've got no way to talk them. Like, this is it. Like, play, and you got to win the games, man. Or you're going to be really scuffling come signing day.
Yep. If you have a question for Bronny, you can do that on the other side of the break. 979-693-1150. 979-693-1150. We'll do more Recruiting Country with Ryan Browninger here on TexAgs Radio. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is Recruiting Country brought to you by Caprock Health System. He's Ryan Broniger. I am David Nuño. So we talk a little recruiting, and I had some other questions I wanted to get to you, but let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because I know a couple questions came in during the break. Kennedy Cavan, part of the great generation of young people working here at TexAgs. Miss Cavan.
That feels backhanded.
What was that about?
She's been on Luke today.
Well, yeah.
She had, for no reason, like Luke made kind of an innocent comment and she snapped at him twice. And Luke,
I did not snap.
No, I'm giving her credit. Dominated him.
Yeah.
Just to the floor, dominated him twice.
I hadn't drinking a lot of my coffee yet. And
can we talk about your coffee order on air?
Fine.
Go ahead. Tell David what you ordered this morning.
I ordered a venti.
Has nothing to do with the size of it.
Which is a large iced coffee with a couple pumps of caramel.
So they put sugar in that to begin with.
I'm trying to see what the calories are.
No, don't tell me.
I'm not going to say it out loud. I just want to know.
She said a couple of shots of caramel.
Yeah.
Pumps.
7.
7?
7 pumps of caramel. And you know that the poor girl working at Starbucks did not even, she just.
Because she was automatically, she was like, do you want 8? And I said, no, I want 7.
That means she wasn't counting. She might have put 8 in there.
Well, it's good.
Well,
I bet.
Apparently, per pump of caramel, 30 calories. So that's not too bad. And
Sugars.
350 calories in one serving of a 24
We
ounce.
don't have to talk about the calorie count.
I was just trying to understand the macronutrients behind it.
And also going back, I did go apologize to Luke for, I did not snap, but I was like, I'm sorry that I was
offended.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Hey, he's good though.
Would you beat him in an arm wrestle?
Luke?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. Richard for
Oh,
sure.
no, I don't think I could beat anybody in an arm wrestle.
No?
I just don't think I'm strong enough.
Still one thing that I think I could beat everybody in this office in is arm wrestling.
Yeah, I think you would too.
But there's not a lot of things that I'm confident in.
You would beat us in a bench pressing contest.
Yeah, but anything that doesn't have to
Squats?
do with strength.
I don't know if there's anything I could beat anybody in.
Sure, you could.
You could beat us.
Not with that attitude.
Well,
you could
I'm
beat
just
us
like-
in
No, but
being
I'm
able to
thinking
down
about,
a
like-
coffee with 7 pumps of caramel in it.
There you go.
Or beat us in graduating earlier than most.
There you go.
Thank you. That's okay. Well, Bronny, you make me think people are going to think I'm mean. I'm not mean. Luke was making a comment trying to say that I wasn't graduating in 4 years. I was graduating like 4.5, which I'm not. I'm graduating 3.5. So I just had to set the record straight. That's all it was.
Super smart girl.
Okay. That's all it was. I don't want my mom to text me and be like, why are you being mean to him? I'm not being mean to him.
Cody Cavan would have been proud of her.
Yeah. So you got a question or two?
I do have a question for
Bronster?
Bronny, actually. Wendy in College Station asked, how is Connor's injury figuring into recruiting, and how is Connor doing?
Too early to tell. It's going to figure in recruiting. I'm sure it's part of the pitch right now. I'm like, look. You're
going to have this guy throwing you the ball next year.
As far as how he's doing, I know that he went hunting during the bye week, so got a cast on it moving around. But I haven't talked to Connor directly about exactly how he's feeling. I think, especially if they can get to that 8-3 going into LSU, that's part of it. Hey, look, we're 8-3, and this guy's on the sideline for the vast majority of it. I think that certainly helps. But if you go 7-5, 6-6, nobody's going to care.
Yeah,
nobody's going to care because it's happened 3 years in a row. So how do these kids know they're not going to come here and their quarterback's not going to get hurt, and then they got to play with a backup? Does that automatically mean we're going to lose games? So you got to win games with a backup whenever it's become a trend, I think.
And
to have that selling point of Connor being out, I think you got to start winning some games. So, okay, like they were an 8-9 win team without him. They're clearly a 10-win team with him, at least.
If this team with a bowl wins 9 games,
I think they can hold. I mean, again, it's impossible to say definitively. Every case for every kid is going to be different. But I think 8-4, you can do a 8-4. I think you can sign a top 10 class. 9-3 with a bowl win, I think you sign a top 5 class.
Right. Cavs, I know we had another one.
Yes, an unnamed texter from California said, have we struck out on our O-line recruits, and are we recruiting solid men?
I got a freshman starting. Chase Basantis is starting.
Chase Basantis has started a lot, and they're really high. They like TJ Shanahan, Colton Thomason. This recruiting class, we've talked a lot about it. They haven't lost any of those kids. You've had rock solid guys that have been with you for a while, in Ashton Funk and even Cohen Eccles.
Yep.
You went out and got sensational athletes in Weston Davis and Blake Ivy, and then pulled one of the top players on the West Coast and Papa Afua, and they haven't wavered in their commitment up to this point. Now, they're all hearing it. Cohen Eccles getting pushed hard by Auburn. It wouldn't surprise me to see him visit there. Weston Davis with LSU in Texas, even Oklahoma. Wouldn't surprise me to see him take some visits. Blake Ivey's a super private kid, so I don't really know what's going on there, but he chose the Aggies over LSU kind of in the final couple of days of his recruitment, and I would imagine that LSU's trying to make inroads there as well. So just because they haven't wavered doesn't mean that they're on rock solid ground, but up to this point, they haven't lost the commitment, and they really like the class that they've got.
Can we talk a little bit about Tristan Jernigan? And again, the defense is something that we feel really good about. Hopefully, players wanting to stay.
Linebacker play too.
Yeah, linebacker play too. But he did take that OV to.
He's going to take
it this weekend
to Alabama.
Is it this weekend? Next weekend against
LSU.
Yeah,
and he's from Wetumpka, Alabama. So he lives in Mississippi, but originally from Alabama. And it's something. It's not nothing.
Yeah,
for a guy that is going to take an official visit to Alabama. Everybody thought that offer for him, it came after he had committed to A&M. Everybody thought that offer would mean something, and it turns out it's going to manifest into a official visit. And it's something the Aggies are going to have to monitor and keep an eye on. It's a legitimate threat, no question. And any time at this point that any of your commits start taking official visits elsewhere because of what has happened, it's going to be definitely something to watch.
So the way we watch Micah Hudson, who takes a visit to A&M and it raises eyebrows, maybe there's still a chance. That's the exact same kind of lens you would have to have with
for A&M kids, and for Jernigan specifically with this visit. I think it's more than Micah. We're still going, okay, there's a lot of work to do. I think Bama has been working on this one hard for a while. And the Aggies can quell all of this. They can put out all of these fires with performances on the field. But these are impressionable 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that also have inner circles who may be impressionable, that are getting hit with everybody in town. Why are Christian and Cruz Nuño going to A&M? They're no good. They lose. Yeah. At some point, that starts to take a toll. No matter what kind of relationships and belief you have in the coaches in the school and the program, if you just get beat down enough with it, at some point there's going to be little cracks in your belief system. So, and that's all that these opposing schools need to prey on, is just get a little crack in it and see if we can wedge our foot in the door a little bit more.
I've asked you this before, and it's probably not a fair question, but are there people who are just born Aggies anymore, or born whatever?
Sure.
Like that?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Like, you know what? Like, this is where I want to go to school.
Ashton Funk's that way.
Okay.
Ashton Funk's that way. There have been guys over the course of, Josh Bankhead was that way. Like, just, this is where I've always wanted to go. I've got whatever happens, I'm good.
But is it more rare in today's college football?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I don't even know if it was prominent in the 90s and 2000s. I wasn't covering this stuff, but we see it a lot more. I see it a lot more in baseball. Guys that grow up just, I wanted to go to A&M and play baseball there forever. And maybe that happens in the other sports as well. But I think football is more wide open for every kid. They all grow up. There's less, unless even the guys that had parents play at certain schools, like Terrence Brooks at Texas. Chet played at A&M, was on the wrecking crew, and his kids now, he went to Ohio State. Now he's at Texas. So even the kids of alumni and former players aren't necessarily a lockdown slam dunk. They're going to, continue their parents' legacy. I think they grow up now with just an idea of taking trips and seeing what's out there and what's the best for them, because they're inundated with it more on social media. They have more access to all these programs, not just the one where my dad played or where my mom and dad went to school. So it helps, especially A&M, because of the network and the loyalty to the school. It helps when they've had family members or parents play at A&M or go to A&M. And I'm sure there are a lot of other programs that can say that, but it's not a deciding factor anymore, if it ever was.
So deciding factor typically is the growth of the program, if they're winning, losing.
Player development.
What about getting to the NFL? If the team has a bad year, but you've got a bunch of dudes that every year are getting drafted.
That's something that they'll have to weigh, and you weigh that against winning football games. But you can also go to programs where if you're being recruited by a program that's sending a lot of guys to the NFL,
they're probably winning.
You're also being recruited by a program that's sending a lot of guys to the NFL and winning football games.
Yeah. All right. Ronnie, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. That is Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. When we come back, an open segment, a little chit-chat. You got some questions you want to talk about A&M football? Let's do it. 979-693-1150. We'll talk about just like gauging where we are with teams and whatnot. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That is on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you go to caldwellcountrychevrolet.com, you can start your search and see all the vehicles that they have. Depending on what phase of life, season of life you're in, you're going to be looking for a car at some point, right? It may be for your soon-to-be 16-year-old kid like, us Nuños. Our boys will be turning 16 this upcoming summer. It may be because you've had that car, you've got 250,000 miles on it, you're going to try to get to 300, but you know that day is coming. Whatever season of life you are in, I want you to consider Caldwell Country Chevrolet for several reasons. A, the customer service. B, the great price point that they're going to give you. And C, the great trade-in. And there's other reasons to go, but those are really the heavy ones when you think about buying a vehicle. And let's not forget, it is not that far a drive. We're talking about 15 minutes, the very edge of Bryan to the very edge of Caldwell. But once you step on the lot and you see the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you're going to feel that difference that they have out there. It is on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. If we want to be a part of the conversation, we got a couple of open segments. Peter Burns had to reschedule, so we'll try to get him here next week. So we're just going to chit-chat for a little bit, Billy's favorite segments, and I do want to get into a couple different things. I want you guys to hear, and I don't know if we have it queued up yet, so I'll talk about something else first, but I do want you to hear Von Miller talking.
We got it.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
So I haven't heard it yet, but Bronny said that A&M football had tweeted or retweeted Buffalo Bills quote from Von Miller talking about Mike Evans. So I thought it'd be a good time to just, remember, we did a whole thing with Billy, was it on Monday? We're talking about these Hall of Famers, right? Like those two dudes right there. So let's go to the sound from Von Miller talking Mike Evans.
Mike, what's up, my boy? No, I love Mike. We played golf together a couple of times. I was there when he first fell in love with it. So to be a part of that is special to me because I really love golf. And, I got a golfing buddy in Mike Evans. Aggies take care of Aggies. We stick together, and it feels like I've played with him in college. I know him so well. So it's always good when you're playing against the good guys.
Love that. I love that. It is so true. I know it's easy to be down in the dumps when it comes to, but man, this place is special. Like, it is so special. In fact, I remember, was it a couple days ago that Dante Hall had reposted the Ring of Honor celebration in Kansas City, and the sea of Aggie football players that were commenting. Even Mike Evans, who did not play with Dante Hall, obviously called him, I think he called him OG or legend, whatever he called him. But like, there's a special bond with all of us that go to this school through the highs and lows. And we got some Aggies, man, that just at the highest stage have performed and also just show you what it is to be an Aggie. Just Devon, the way he carries himself. Got Myles Garrett playing out of this world right now. Devon, who obviously is trying to come back from injury but has been phenomenal, was probably your potential offensive rookie of the year if it wasn't for that injury. He was definitely going to be in the conversation. Could maybe potentially still get in there. And they sure need him. We just saw the Dolphins last week against the Eagles. All that being said, Mike Evans is they're going to play this weekend. That's why he was asked about it. Tampa is on the road at Buffalo. Both teams needing a win. Buffalo at 4-3 and Tampa at 3-3. So that's the Thursday night game. That's the tomorrow night game. So I'll be tuning into that one. All right, let's get into what I want to talk about, because sometimes, like, the way we evaluate teams, we think we know, and then we don't, right? So you're going to be able to replicate what they did in year one of Brian Kelly. There was a point, and let's not pretend like it didn't happen after the Ole Miss game, because right now, if we're pointing out scenarios for teams, right now the A&M scenario is very easy because it's right fresh from the Tennessee loss and the Alabama loss, and here we go again, right? There was a point after that Ole Miss game, like you lost to Florida State, now you just lost to Ole Miss. What else is next? Credit to Brian Kelly, right? Credit to that staff and that offense carrying the load. They do deserve credit for that. I was made aware that I said that I thought they'd take a step back this year. I think this is still TBD. You lose your first game of the season to Florida State, you lose a couple weeks later to Ole Miss, and your defense is atrocious. A step back is still part of the conversation. There is a world that is true. But I give credit where it's due. And that's the thing about seasons. These opinions that we have, these thoughts, this analysis that we have is based on what we've seen and what we expect to see. I also thought Michigan would win the national championship before the season started. We'll see how that plays out. I feel pretty good about it right now, or at least them being. We'll see how the scandal goes for them. I thought that Georgia would navigate through some tough times, but they should still be in the mix, but they may not be the same team. That seems to be pretty true. I thought Alabama would probably be a 2 or 3 team lost team. Doesn't feel that way right now. Is it possible? Absolutely. The thing that I think we have to sometimes remember is these coaches get paid to make adjustments, right? Jimbo is his time to make adjustments for this year. Like, you hope they're making an adjustment from each week, right? You hope that, all right, this isn't working, let's do that. We weren't getting to the quarterback in this game against Miami, let's make adjustments. Oh, now we're getting to the quarterback all the time, right? we're having a hard time blocking and our quarterback's holding on to the ball maybe a little bit longer. You have a bye week. Hopefully, you coached, you figured it out, and you move on. So there is a chess match that is being played during the season that I cannot predict how that goes. I thought A&M would be an 8-4, 9-3 team. That's still in the mix. They could be worse, right? They can't be better, but they could be worse, right? Are there some changes? LSU is so far away, and that offense is so potent. I don't even want to think about that one right now. They've got their own issues to worry about with a couple players out, Denver Harris being one of them. But like for A&M, is it out of the realm of possibility that this offense clicks like it clicked at Auburn and against Arkansas? And again, that was a half of real good offense, not a full game. And now we've got multiple examples of that. You could say that the half that they played against Miami, outside of having a short field, that first half, was not a good offensive performance. You can go look at that game. You can look at Miami. You can look at Auburn. You can look at Arkansas. That becomes a trend. It absolutely does. But then we saw how they were going defensively. Like, you're not getting to the quarterback the first few games. Like, they weren't, right? So they had some issues they had to fix. And on the defense, I think we've seen a good job. Now, Tennessee, they did not stop the run. Credit to Tennessee being an elite rushing team and a team that will spread you out, something that I think Ole Miss is going to do to A&M as well. I'm not saying they're going to have that same level of success. They rushed for, was it 390 yards last year, Nick? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's really close to that.
All right. So
certain number.
And that was on the road, and the A&M had no answer for it. But A&M couldn't stop the run last year. This year, they've done excellent at stopping the run, Tennessee aside. They stopped Bama from running the ball. They stopped Tennessee. No, they didn't stop Tennessee. They stopped Miami from running the ball. So they stopped Arkansas. They stopped Auburn. They had these games where they stopped the run. Are they that far off? It feels that way because, like, here we go again. Can't score in the second half. Here we go again. Quarterback getting hit. Here we go again. Can't move the ball. Can't score points. Right? Like, yes. Here's the chess match. This weekend becomes the chess match. This is the time where you got to take care of business offensively. I'm fairly confident they're going to get to Spencer Rattler. I don't know if it's going to be 10 times, 3 times, 5 times. I don't know. I feel like he's going to be under fire. He's been under fire against everybody. Everybody. That is a wounded team. A&M, also a wounded team. I understand the teams that they've lost to, right? But it doesn't matter. It's about what they do. So can A&M pressure Spencer Rattler into some bad turnovers and short fields for that offense to get clicking? Can they simplify the offense to a point where it's just quick reads and, like, get the ball out, bro? I said bro a lot today. I apologize. Like at least 3 times. I'm almost 50. I don't know what's the rule? Cavs, how long can you say bro?
You can say bro.
I think I think you can say bro. I think that's allowed.
All right. Garrett Chadwell, that's my bro. Like I felt fine saying it to him, but I just said it out loud here. But anyway, like this is a game. It's not a get-right game because both teams are wounded. Both teams are searching for victories. A&M's wounded in a different way. A&M is wounded because it should have been different. But it's not. Can you be more like the team that showed up against Auburn? Can you be more like the team that showed up against Arkansas? Because those teams have played other teams pretty tight. You look, if you're looking for reasons to maybe have some optimism, like people get mad, oh, don't give me the Look, I'm giving you the reasons. I'll tell you the reasons why I worry. We all know the offense has been inefficient in the second half. They have a hard time blocking. They have a hard time giving up big passes this year. All right? So I gave you some reasons. Special teams has been bad recently. All right? Those are the reasons. You want reasons to feel good? You're playing at Cobb Field. You're not taking on a defense like you've taken on the last 2 weeks. Doesn't excuse it. People, when I say that, people think that means, oh, that's an excuse. No, it is what it is. Those are really good defenses. Offense hasn't been good enough. True. You're not taking on that. You're taking on the 118th ranked defense. Move the ball. Get to the quarterback. Move the ball. Protect your quarterback. Simplify the game. I'm not coaching them. They've got to figure it out. I have a feeling that this weekend will be good, but none of us know anything. And I guess it comes back to it. We can make predictions. We can have takes. We can... Look, I want them to win across the street. This is called TexAgs Radio, right? We are a Texas A&M fan site that supports our team, and we can be ultra critical and ultra supportive of our team. We can find reasons to believe and find reasons not to. That's what it is. You can be critical. I can take a step back and be a journalist. We can all wear different hats. We have to, right? So at the end of the day, this is a game that should, and I believe will be, a good game for Texas A&M. And I think we will have good feelings heading into Ole Miss, understanding the hesitation of winning at Ole Miss. Like, outside of a 50-0 win, and even that I don't know, but I'm still going to be like, but can they do it on the road? They haven't done it on the road since Lincoln, right? That is all part of the conversation. And they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out because Bronny just had a whole segment about where we are recruiting-wise. So it's not just a win, it's how you win. And I think how you win will go a long way into determining what the rest of this season looks like and what we look like heading into the offseason. We're 7 games in, about to be 8 games in. There's no more real estate, no more room for error. 0 room for error. Got to take care of the games that are in front of you. Time to talk a little all Aggie hullabaloo. If it's game week, it's not if, it is game week. And if you're headed to the game this weekend, the Association of Former Students wants to invite you to join them at the All Aggie Hullabaloo. Make the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center your game day headquarters for this weekend. Enjoy free coffee from GoGo Coffee. GoGo Coffee Company, free drinks courtesy of Kristen Distributing, and as well as food for purchase from the Raging Bull Street Tacos and Pop Pop's Dandy Dog. You can also be pregame shopping at the vendor marketplace with Beaded Blondes, the Charge Apparel, Kendra Scott, and Game Day Boots, while all listening to the music of DJ Rob. Plus, if you got questions about your Aggie ring or need to have it resized, the Aggie Ring office will be open throughout the event. The All Aggie Hullabaloo starts at 9 a.m. this week, and admission is absolutely free. Don't miss out on a great event, and don't forget to register to claim your wristband at tx.ag/all-aggie-hullabaloo. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, final segment, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Ross is holding. I didn't see him at the other segment, so I apologize. Ross, welcome to TexAgs. What's up, bud?
Hey, thank you very much. How are you doing?
All right. Is this Ross east of East Texas?
No, this is Ross from Woodstock.
All right.
Ross.
Let's do it, Ross.
So just a perplexing thing to me is the special type of delusion that a fan has to be suffering from. To just think that they know better than the coaches. And the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, comes to mind often. It's one thing to not be complacent with where we are. And I know we're very clear with expectations. When we brought Jimbo in, we wanted to compete for conference titles as well as national championships. And that hasn't happened. So that's said and done. But I just don't understand the anger and the emotion from the frustration. I think you can be competitive and care about this team without, going through people's heads. And then the last part, just to tail it off, is, when we talk about execution and accountability, to me, that's not him passing off any accountability. I think it's implied that falls under coaching. And then my follow-up question would be to those who say, fix it, enough with execution. Well, what's your suggestion? What do you know about the going on in the program that would be helpful? I just don't think a lot of the negativity from the fans is very helpful when you consider you have the athletic department, you have the football program, you have TexAgs, you have all these people whose livelihoods and jobs are dedicated to the success of our athletic program. So that's all I want to say.
Hey, Ross, great points, man. I appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. And I'm going to hang up so you can listen off air. Here's how I'll answer that. I think some people don't care. They just want the results. And they're like, dude, you are getting paid X, Y, Z. You've been the guy for so long. Figure it out. And there is a lot of that is to be truth. I want to see that. But we don't know what's going on across the street. All we can do is, voice our concerns and hope for change. And look, I don't think they're that far off. But it feels like they're really far off when you lose, right? When you lose multiple games and now you're at already 3 losses, and you're like, how are they going to win on the road these next 2 times? Ole Miss has owned you the last 2 years. LSU, that offense. So I understand all those questions. I think fans should be on both sides. I think you should have some ultra-critical fans, and you should have fans that kind of just, like, this is where we are in the season, right? Like, if you guys want me calling for people's heads left and right, what good is that going to do, right? I just want them to figure it out. And there will be a time where we'll have to talk about the next step. But let's go win a football game against South Carolina. And let's go on the road and figure out a way to win at Ole Miss. And then take the temperature of the room then. And if you don't, then I think everything that people have been complaining about will all make sense. All right, guys, that's going to do it here for TexAgs Radio on a Wednesday. Nick Savage and Luke behind the glass doing great work. Kennedy Cavan, you were awesome.
Thanks.
Ryan Browninger was great. Our guests were great. We'll see you mañana, guys.